Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text forecast to 603-356-2137.
Hello, listeners. Nick here with your forecast for the weekend of December 6th, 2025, Friday. In the clear under mostly sunny skies. High starting around 15 below, rising to around 0 degrees by sunset. Wind northwest, shifting west at 45 to 60 miles per hour, with gusts up to 70 miles per hour. Wind chill 45 below to 55 below, rising to 20 below to 30 below. Friday night. In the clear under partly cloudy skies. Low starting around 0 degrees, then rising to the lower teens above. Wind west, shifting southwest at 45 to 60 miles per hour, decreasing to 20 to 35 miles per hour. Wind chill 20 below to 30 below, then rising late to 5 below to 15 below. Saturday. In the clear, trending towards in the clouds under mostly cloudy skies. A chance of flurries in the afternoon. Possible additional snow accumulations of a trace to 2 inches. High, lower teens above. Wind southwest, shifting west at 20 to 35 miles per hour, increasing to 40 to 55 miles per hour with gusts up to 65 miles per hour. Wind chill 5 below to 15 below. So, it is a nippy start to the weekend. Be safe, happy hiking, hope you can get out there safely, crush some peaks. See you later.
Broadcasting from the Woodpecker Studio in the great Live Free or Die state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and beyond. Here are your hosts, Mike and Nick.
Okay, and we are live on episode 216. We have a clown car with us here, Nick. We got 1 million people here.
Yeah, it's crowded in here tonight.
We have Rebecca and Andy with us, so thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes,
thank you. Andy's breaking out the radio voice tonight. I like it.
He's got the John Tesh.
Good Elvis.
John Tesh moves here. So, Rebecca, welcome back. It's been a while. You've been high. You haven't been hiding. You've just been hiking. Well, we've been doing nothing.
I've been working full time again, so it's been busy.
Yeah. Does that limit your ability to go out hiking, or are you still doing the same amount?
About the same amount, maybe a little less, because I work like a traditional job, so I only can go on the weekends, but I have summers off.
Okay. So you can.
Oh, that's nice.
You can crank in the summer. So awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna nerd out here today, so we've got some good topics. So let me just start off with the intro, and then we'll get into the details here. So welcome to episode 216 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. This week, we are joined by Rebecca Sperry. Rebecca has been a guest and a stand-in co-host for us in the past. We wanted to have her come back in to update us on her recent adventures. She is the, I don't know what we're supposed to call you, Rebecca, like the White Mountain redline / trace expert for us, basically. You're on have you completed round 3 or you're on round 2?
I'm on round 2.
Okay. So she's been on trails almost more than anybody. I mean, there's a few old timers, I think, but you're getting up there. So she's going to share her adventures and tell us what she's been up to. And then we've got Andy from the COG here, and he's going to partner with Rebecca as well, and they're going to share some history about old logging roads. And Nick's got some stuff to add to it. I got some stuff to add to it. So very excited to talk about that. Plus, we are going to talk about Good Samaritans. We're going to talk about a new White Mountain Almanac book that's available. We're going to talk about the search that's been suspended for a missing hiker on Blood Mountain in Georgia. There's a deadly, I don't know if this is a black bear or a grizzly bear attack in Canada, but we're going to talk about that. Tragedy in Patagonia. There was 5 hikers, I think, that passed away on a freak storm down there, so we'll talk about that. We got winter hiking advice. We got recent hikes on Mount Garfield and Aggassiz. Is that how you say that, Nick?
Yeah, that's what I'm going with, Aggassiz. Unless anybody else
Aggassiz
has an opinion on that one.
Right. And then Mount Monadnock's blowing up on search and rescue, so we'll talk about that. So I'm Mike.
And I'm Nick.
Let's get started.
Let's get started!
All right, so we're going to go into our friend Christina and Wild Raven endurance coaching, and then we'll come back out on the other side. I guess I'm going to cough this time, but did it.
Hi, I'm Christina from Wild Raven Endurance Coaching. I work with athletes of all levels, from hikers to triathletes, helping you reach your goals with personalized guidance. With years of experience hiking, mountain biking, and trail running across New England, I also have a deep knowledge of the New Hampshire 4,000 footers and the surrounding trails. Whether you're a beginner hiker or a seasoned athlete, I'll guide you towards your goals, reducing injury risk and improving your performance through smart, tailored coaching. Are you looking to transition from hiking to mountain running? I'm here to make that journey easier too. My approach combines strength training, mindfulness, and life balance on and off the trail. Let me help you find more joy in your sport while getting stronger and healthier along the way. Visit www.coaching.christinafolsick.com and start your adventure today.
All right. I'm still dealing with this cough, so I'll apologize ahead of time.
Are you on the upswing at least?
I'm on the upswing. What I'm finding is that when I wake up in the morning, I would do this test where I would breathe super deeply, and then I'm recovering from pneumonia, Rebecca. I would breathe super deeply, and then I would cough. But the last couple of mornings I've done that, and I've been okay. But as I'm talking through the day, and then later in the day, I think my lungs are drying out, and it's harder to talk.
I can't believe you got pneumonia.
It's brutal. That's why I had to reschedule with you a couple times.
Plus, you had that stomach thing.
Yes. Yeah. Stomach virus and then pneumonia. I'm very fragile, Rebecca.
You are fragile.
I am. So, all right. So, Nick, I wanted to start off by plugging you're too humble to do this. So, you guys should buy one of these from him, because I think it's worth it. I use this all the time, but Nick sells a calendar every year of his photography. So
I do.
When can we buy that? And first, am I in any of the photos? I saw the video, but I couldn't tell if I was in any of the photos.
No, Mike. Unfortunately, you're not in any of the photos this year. I'm sorry. I'll try my best next year. I could just make a.
Yeah, you'd owe him some royalties for that, I think.
If you want to pay extra, I can just make you a Mike calendar if you prefer.
I may have to.
Like Mike in every month of the year.
Is that a not safe for work calendar?
It can be. It depends how much you want to pay me and how willing Mike is to do certain poses, I guess. But yeah, I do that calendar every year. And yeah, if you would like one, just reach out on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. I'm going to do some, basically an order. It's always tough with the printing and the shipping, because shipping just costs so much. I try to order as many as I can and pay for the least amount of shipping, or at least times being shipped. So I'm going to do an order sort of after Thanksgiving, and then probably do an order before Christmas, depending on demand. And we'll get them out and ship them. So $35, it will ship to your door for that price.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll include it in the show notes too, with Nick's Instagram, so you can message him. And I use this thing all the time. I find having like a paper calendar right in front of me in my work area, I use it all the time. All right.
Yeah, there's no substitute for that. The calendar in my phone is just a formality at this point, but I like having the physical thing.
It takes me like 10 minutes to get to the point where I can find the calendar. So, all right. So, Andy, what's going on with the snow conditions? You're probably best positioned to give us an update on this stuff. Rebecca, I don't know if you've been out recently too, but what's the deal with the roads? What's the deal with the snowpack?
So snowpacks, it's kind of a mixed bag right now. We did get, of course, a lot of great November snow, and we're going to have some warm temperatures here. We had some warmth today. It's going to be warm this week, and some rain falling on top of snow, which will then refreeze. So that'll change the game. But most trails are looking at anywhere from an inch at trailheads, everything north of Crawford Notch, to about 7 to 12 inches plus at higher summits and higher elevations. And it's real soft. It's real slippery. Spikes is generally the name of the game. If you're out on less traveled stuff, you might need some snowshoes for higher elevation stuff. But it's that time of year where the roads start to close. And if you don't do your little research, you could be stymied in your plan. You approach a road and the gate's up. And Trails New Hampshire always has a great resource for that, so you can check the gate status on the forest roads. And we've got recent closures. Everyone should be aware. Zealand Road closed about a week ago, and very recent Gale River Loop Road is now closed as well for folks looking to head over the Garfield Galehead area there. And Jefferson Notch Road closed for about a week now as well, and that's that infamous one. People are always wondering, if the gate's open, they think they can drive on it, but it's a snow machine trail. Four-wheel drive will not get you out of there. You will get stuck. I've pulled people out of there. It's bad news. So don't drive down the Notch Road. People get in trouble there too, because they'll get directed by GPS, right? They did have that one bad incident with like a family in a minivan that made it pretty far up. So. Mm-hmm.
To jog, I was going to say, just to jog people's memory really quick too. That's the one that goes up to the Caps Ridge trailhead, the highest trailhead in the White. So that road goes up to like 3,250 feet. So yeah, it's going to get pretty snowy up there, and it's pretty curvy going back down the other side too. So I don't think you want to mess with that and fly off the road if you make it that far.
Yeah. Right. I heard some reports before they shut the gate, people that had taken it on, and at the height of land there at the top of the road, it was not fun to come down the other side. Yeah. We have folks here at work that use it as a commute, and even before they opted to shut it, it was questionable for traction.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I drove by Haystack Road over the weekend, and I thought it looked open, but Trails New Hampshire saying it's closed as of the 22nd. So so that would be on Saturday. So maybe they closed it at the end of the day on Saturday, because I drove past it like Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, they usually bundle that one with Gale River Loop. So yeah, maybe it's Saturday, but got them both.
Yeah, we get out there in the morning and they were open. But I mean, it wasn't bad driving down it, but it definitely was a little icy and snow covered. So I'm not shocked it was closed pretty shortly thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you're going to be doing road walks. It's that time of the year, so just assume that everything's closed at this point, and get your snowshoes. And we're going to talk a little bit about winter hiking and how to put your snowshoes on your backpack, and when to use snowshoes, and when to use micro spikes, and all that fun stuff. But first, I wanted to just give a little reflection. So this show will be dropping a week after we drop the Full Conditions live event. So we just finished that on. So we're recording on Tuesday the 25th, and then we did the Full Conditions show on the 22nd. Rebecca, you weren't there. This place was unbelievable. It was like, we did it at the Bethlehem Colonial Theater, and it's a fundraiser for New Hampshire Outdoor Council, and there was, guess how many people were there, Rebecca?
200.
More.
300.
300 people were there. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Sold out. Yeah, sold out. We were, how nervous were you, Andy?
Not really, except for I got these vibes just because it's a formal theater with a backstage area. Seeing like the backstage area there kind of brought me back to my time working in music venues in Boston, and that got me excited actually. And then it was hard to see anyone from the stage, so I think that can help actually. Like, the crowd's just out there, but you can't really tell.
You can see crap up there. Lights were
very
bright.
Yeah, couldn't see anything, which I wasn't prepared for, but I didn't mind it. But yeah, Rebecca, we 300 people, and then this was a fundraiser for the New Hampshire Outdoor Council. So we had Ty Gagney, we had Joe Lentini from Mountain Rescue, and the president Paul Cormier from Mountain Rescue as well. And then Andy joined us, Dave of Dave Shits in the Woods joined us, Stomp made a return. And we had a really fun night. And I think, Nick, you had said that there was an email going around that the discussion was around $8,500 had been raised from the New Hampshire Outdoor Council to support the various volunteer search and rescue organizations across the state. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, that was the estimate from Philip, the marketing manager of Reckless, that did an awesome job kind of, I guess, organizing the bulk of the event between the vendors and everybody and sponsors and kind of everybody else and the guests. But yeah, that was a good chunk of change for the New Hampshire Outdoor Council and for the New Hampshire Search and Rescue teams. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Glad we could help out.
It was awesome. And shout out to Forrest from Mountain Wanderer and Nick from Bergen. They were fantastic as well. They joined us. And the Reckless crew is fantastic as well. Now the only problem is, Andy, we got to figure out what do we do next year to top it?
Yeah, how do we up this? We filled that space. I mean, that space fits really well.
Right.
I think that worked great. I don't know how we get a space or a venue with more space in the North Country. That's going to be kind of a tall ask. Although I've got some ideas we could work around. But I do like that venue.
Yeah.
Next year, does the Omni Resort have anything big?
they sure
that,
do.
Gorgeous thing that they had for where they had the PEMI at, right? Or when they had the governor met with you guys and stuff.
With the awards, yeah.
I mean, how big is that place?
Massive.
Maybe
whether or not they will make it available is another question.
Because they do weddings and stuff there, so they would be able to. But the thing is it's got to be close to Reckless, because that was the bonus.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. There. That's true.
So, but yeah, it was a great night. I'm still kind of like processing. It's like 2 days later. I was super nervous, and then once I feel like, I don't know, I've done enough of these live events now where I think when the lights go on, it's like you better you got to pull yourself together and just get it done. So
the sound was amazing. I mean, the intro, just hearing the intro song and the music in the beginning was like, that sent some goosebumps down the spine there.
Yeah, Stomp did an awesome job with that sort of longer rendition of the Water Pots intro. I was going to say Water Pots. Yeah. Water Pots intro. It was really cool
coming out.
Yeah. The Water Pots. But yeah, that was super cool. And kind of like, it's funny. I know, Andy, like you worked in music. I played out live on and off for like 10 years way back now. But it kind of reminded me of that too, for sure. Going on stage and kind of just getting amped up behind and like ready to go. And, yeah, I kind of felt the same way, Mike, where once you started talking, I was like, okay. I did have this moment of like, how did I end up here from last year? Because last year I was like playing live acoustic guitar with you guys before and then kind of watching the thing. So it was weird to be up there like interviewing Paul Cormier for like 30 minutes, just like basically getting to ask him questions about Mountain Rescue Service. And it's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's been a fun year. And Rebecca, you'll have to come next year. We'll get you up on the stage.
I'd be really nervous. I would do it though. I would just do my teacher act.
Oh, that's
I'd put on my teacher act.
Exactly. Just pretend like you're.
Just pretend like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Just pretend like they're all students and pay attention. So all good stuff. So thank you very much. I guess the one big takeaway I would say is probably the most shocking thing that came out of that was when we were talking. So Rebecca, I'll get your opinion on this. We had a segment where we were talking with Joe Lentini, longtime guide in mountain rescue, and I was telling him that, from my perspective, I've always felt that like I'm much more comfortable going up on the Ammonoosuc side. And in my mind, I've always sort of said like, all right, you go up Ammo, you get to lakes, and then you assess what the weather's going to be like. And I don't really play around with Mount Washington unless the weather forecast is going to be good. But he takes the opposite view. He feels like the Pinkham Notch side is the safer side. You're less exposed to the wind, and that's what he recommends. So I guess I was quite surprised about that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that because usually, isn't it like the northwest is the direction that the wind is coming on the Prezzies, and you're more exposed on the ammo side. I feel like in terms of how long you're above tree line, I'd say it's probably comparable, or maybe, I don't know if the ammo would be longer because you're above tree line for a solid mile on the ammo side.
Right.
Because that from lakes all the way up to the summit is about a mile.
I think so.
And if you're going up Tux, I mean, that's all very exposed. But I feel like it's I don't know, is it shorter to go up from Tux?
I think so.
Like
I think
lengthwise.
So. Yeah,
I think it's more miles to do ammo.
Yeah. So, but I guess, I guess I can agree with him on bad weather days. I just, that explanation didn't occur to me just because I always pick my days and generally go on a safe day. But he's right that if you're going to go on a day that's sketchy, you're going to get hit with the wind right away. But I found that interesting.
Yeah, I think if I was going to say, like, if I was telling a person the trails that I think are the, I guess, easiest, in quotes, for Washington, Jewel to me is the easiest, I would say. I just feel like it's, for me, doing it, I've done it twice now, and it's easiest to me. And you have to just once you hit Gulf Side, I mean, that's pretty easy. It's not a really difficult trail because it's the Appalachian Trail. They maintain it really well. And then I would say ammo would be my next pick on the list of like easiest in terms of like climbing and everything. And then Tux maybe would be next.
Yeah.
Because Tux is pretty nice too. I don't know. I don't love Lion's Head. I didn't love it as much as Tux.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't mind Tuckerman's. And as I get older and lazier, I've actually found that I don't go up the summit cone on Tuckerman. Like I'll loop around. I find like it's just it's almost the same to just loop around and come up Crawford Path. And I find that to just be a little nicer climb anyway. But I guess if the wind's an issue, then yeah, you can hide from it by going up the top of Tuckerman.
Yeah, I like Lionhead as a way down. Like if you're coming down in the dark, it's a nice way down. I think it's a little more agreeable than coming through Tux in the dark. But daylight, I would take Tux as the up on that side any day. Jewel's nice because it gives you that option. If you punch tree line and you're not liking what's going on, you can just turn right back around.
So, but I thought that was a good discussion. So anyway, I'll have to ponder a little bit about my winter hiking and come up from the Pinkham Notch side to try it out.
For sure. I mean, with it, I was just thinking when we were talking about that, but for sure, it seems like to me for what we've seen for search and rescues, at least since I've been paying attention to it, especially more over the past, I don't know, a year or so, a lot of people do get into trouble on Jewel descending that side. Because I think his argument too is that you're not, because I got to imagine if you're coming from the east, you're going to get blasted and you can kind of turn back and still run and hide and shelter if you're on the eastern side of Washington, whereas like you have to come back down west into it at that point, and you're not going to notice as much with the wind at your back. But yeah, I mean, it seems like there's had to have been half a dozen rescues on Jewel over the past year.
Yeah,
with people getting stuck, and not even in the winter.
Yeah, agreed. All right. So anyway, we'll ponder on that, and then I think we're going to move to New Hampshire. We have a couple of things about New Hampshire here. So Nick, you had I saw this come through, but why don't you break down this? This is kind of a cool story on Franconia Ridge.
Yeah, this was really neat, and we want to thank our listener, Dr. M. Hikes, who gave us a couple things for this episode. But yeah, we had 2 Mashpee scouts carried injured young woman down the mountain. So this was back on, let's see, I think it was November 11th this actually happened. But 2 Mashpee Middle High School students and Boy Scouts of America Troop 36 stepped up and assisted a young woman hike the final 2 miles down New Hampshire's Mount Lafayette when it became clear that she could no longer do it unassisted. So the 2 scouts were seniors at Mashpee Middle High School, and they were scouting members for almost a decade. And they stumbled upon this young woman and her family while returning on a trip down Mount Lafayette after they were out with the scouts. And basically, these 2 scouts who had younger Cub Scouts with them said one of the reasons that they actually checked on this young woman who appeared to be having issues was just to set a good example. So it's kind of cool that they were just looking to be like, hey, we should show these young Cub Scouts kind of what we should do on trail. And they basically ended up helping carry the women back down the mountain, which was really, really neat to see these things sort of take care of themselves. I mean, it saved a SAR call out. And honestly, it was just awesome. They kind of talk about trying to use a rope and hiking poles to make a seat, but ultimately the boys decided to carry her down, and they did it in about 2 miles for 2 hours, and kind of just stuck together with her family and the group of scouts, and they got her out of there. So really, really neat story.
Yeah, I love this story. That, like you said, it avoided a formal rescue call out, and this is such a scout story. Like they tried to improvise a device, they had to use their first aid skills. I mean, this is one of those really because the outcome was agreeable. This is one of those really feel good stories to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking like 2 kids high school age literally having the wherewithal to think of making like a seat out of rope and some hiking poles to actually help the woman get down. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely not something I probably would have thought of doing when I was that age.
No, that's super commendable. And I think that troop having this experience, that's something they're never going to forget. And it's something that they'll be able to draw from. I mean, this is just incredible.
Yeah. I was drinking beer behind Walmart when I was that age. So, but no, it's good stuff. But it did make me think about like, I've heard so many people have sent stories in, or I've talked to people, or you just get to, you see things like I've helped out a few people all the time, but it's just a good reminder that just be prepared, as you get more experience hiking, I think. And Rebecca and Andy, you guys probably, Andy, you definitely have the stories, and I'm sure Rebecca, you do too, but just one of the things to think about as you get more and more experience is like you probably need to step up and be a good Samaritan at some point. So bring an extra headlamp, or, I carry a splint and wrap and all that stuff. I haven't really had to use it, but I actually did use some stuff when some guy, I ran into him and he had no sneakers. His like boots fell apart. So you never know when you're going to be able to help somebody. So just keep that in mind. I don't know, Rebecca, have you done a good Samaritan move before? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, last summer, actually, I had an incident on Jewel Trail. I was coming down, and there was 2 guys right at the junction with the Gulf Side Trail, and one of them, like, I overheard them talking, and they were like kind of just trying to decide if they should keep going because they were doing a Prezi Traverse, and one of the 2 guys, he was really sick. Like, he fell down, passed out, violently ill at one point after Jefferson, not doing good at all. And I kind of butted into the conversation a little bit because I was like, are you guys okay? Are you thinking about bailing out? And they were kind of wavering because one of the dudes, he was from the South, and this was like a big deal. He really wanted to do a Prezi Traverse, and he was wicked sick, like stomach issues. And I have a bunch of leftover Zofran, which is like anti-nausea meds from when I was in treatment. And so, of course, I keep that with me. And at first I was like, if you guys want to bail, I'll give you a ride. Like, I'm parked down at Ammo. And they were like, we're not sure. And I said, well, I have this medication. If you want, you can take it. And I honestly, I'm like, I've never given, it's a prescription medication. Yeah. Like, I don't typically give drugs to people.
Take these drugs.
Yeah, here, have some of this. And so I was like, well, I'm pretty sure it should be okay. It's just anti-nausea medication, and you dissolve it under your tongue, and it works really fast. So I gave him one of them, and they were going to keep going to like the Lake of the Clouds hut and like figure out there. And I said, if you decide to bail, I'll be at the parking lot, so I'll probably see you if you'd bail out there. And they didn't end up bailing. They continued. And I guess I actually got tagged in like a Reddit post, which I don't have Reddit, but someone else showed me it. And they were like, oh, thank you to the guardian angel who gave us the medication. And I gave him a bunch of food and like water because they didn't even have that either. So like I gave him my water bottle and like snacks and stuff. And so they ended up being able to keep going, and he finished the Prezi Traverse. And I was like, yay. I was so happy for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, that's, everybody, I feel like the longer you hike, the more you collect those. Matter of fact, I ran into a guy that was like in that same area there, and I forget what happened. I think he ended up like, instead of going down the Jewel Trail, he went to whatever that spur is. So he was starting to walk, like bypass Clay, but like heading towards Jefferson, and he didn't realize like he was going the wrong way. So he was like asking us, and I was like, oh, well, you can just come with us. And we got
I have a lot of those incidents.
Yeah.
I feel like people look at me and think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you give off that
because I get asked questions a lot, like, "Oh, is this the right way?" Like that same day, I had a couple going the wrong direction on Jewel, and I'm like, "Nope, the summit's this way," because they banged a left instead of a right on the junction where it comes up from like the cog.
Yes,
there's like that side trail.
Yep.
And then I had another couple that also didn't know where they were going down Jewel Trail. Like it's kind of crazy. Sometimes I'm like, man, I'm like a guide.
Yeah. I don't offer much, but if people ask me, I'll definitely help them out. Sometimes I've felt bad. Matter of fact, Nick, when we did the hike coming down, when we did that most recent hike where we did Jefferson to Ammonoosuc and down, I felt like some of the people coming up Crawford Path when we were coming down, I almost wanted to just be like, what's your plan? Because there's no way you're going to make it down.
Yeah, the clouds kind of descended too. And it's funny too, I guess, to touch back a little bit on the theme, full conditions, kind of what we're talking about is it's definitely awkward to kind of be proactive and maybe like you were saying, Rebecca, interject yourself into people's conversations sometimes. But I feel like the longer too I've been out, the more it's at worst case, they're just going to kind of think you're a dick and whatever, you're probably not going to see those people immediately again. And best case, you might be helping them. And in that case, Rebecca, the guy's dehydrated and he needs a search and rescue down Mount Washington because he's been puking for the next 2 miles and something and dehydrated. So, I mean, it's worth the chance, I guess, of being able to help those people out or maybe save them some miles or whatever. But I feel too, some people just think you're being pretentious and they're I know what I'm doing. And it's yeah.
With girls, it's probably more that they just think you're stupid because you're a girl. But when you're a guy, they probably think you're pretentious. Because I definitely get the vibe of are you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
More.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I've been on the receiving end of unsolicited advice and I just shrug it off, but I don't get offended by it. And there are people that will just go out there and kind of talk down to people on trail or mansplain trails to people. And 100%. It's just, that's cringy. But it happens a lot out there. And I agree. I'd rather err on the side of checking in with someone if I have a question about how they're doing and they can say, no, I'm good. But, it's about how you present it, I guess, and how you broach that.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot, and it's just there's no easy way to do it. But I guess if you're concerned about someone, you can always just be like, "Hey, you got any questions? I've been in this area before. I can do my best to help." See what they say. Mm-hmm. I will say, Rebecca, though, I get humbled by my daughters all the time. So as much as you get that sort of mansplaining thing, my daughters keep me in check. So that's the recipe is you got to have 3 or 4 daughters to keep the mansplaining under control.
Get ganged up upon.
Right. Yeah. Especially they're home right now for college. So I'm hearing it I've been humbled. So
I love that.
Yes. Yeah. They're doing good. All right. So next subject on New Hampshire. This is kind of cool. I don't know if you guys were aware of this or not, but so the first annual release of the White Mountain Almanac has been released through a partnership with AMC, Hubbard Brook Research Foundation, and the Mount Washington Observatory. So I'm a graph guy and a data nerd, so I'm in heaven at this point. But it's 112 pages, and it's actually available online. I'm assuming you can probably buy it too when you go to the different AMC locations. But it's 112 pages, and it breaks down a whole bunch of information around winter temperatures, thawing events, how many winter recreation days they're seeing, what the spring precipitation is, alpine growing, the volume of rain, hail, and thunderstorms, how many summer recreation days. I think they define winter recreation and summer recreation as the good days to go out there. And drought, they talk about snow days before the holidays. And the big meta trend is it's similar to what Joe and Paul had talked about at Full Conditions that you don't really think about, but essentially it was way colder, 20, 30, 40 years ago. It was way colder over the winter. We get 2 or 3 cold weekends over the winter that everyone gets jazzed up about, but it was much colder. The snowfall, I think, the snowpack held on a lot longer in the spring than it does now. So everything is shifting, and the temperatures are getting warmer across the board. And I think there's various, like, precipitation seems to be getting a little higher too, but it's seasonal, I think, more in the spring. But I think this is a really interesting almanac, and I guess they're going to put it out every year moving forward. But if you're looking for something to check out, especially from the perspective of what's going on with the climate or in and around the presidential range and White Mountains, this is definitely a great resource.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm a huge weather and climate nerd, and this tickles that itch a lot. It's beautifully put together, and it kind of fills that void. A lot of the farmers' almanacs are kind of on the decline or going away, and the local touch of this, it's just wonderfully presented. I like to go on and nerd out on the observatory's monthly F6 reports, and this just takes those and extrapolates them out into like a story form and puts the information in a really accessible format. It's beautifully done.
Yeah, and it goes back. So it goes back to the 1950s as well. So, and all of the graphs that they provide have a trend line where they'll basically say very significant increase, a significant increase, no increase, and decrease or whatever. And you can see most of the temperatures have gone up, and they have like thaw intensity and all kinds of measurements. And then they also give you a lot of background on the science behind this. So I think it's really fantastic and super interesting. They've got some great photos too in this almanac.
Yeah.
So
I should mention it's in a PDF form online too.
Correct.
To read. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm flipping through it as we're talking here. So I'll include this link in the show notes. I made the mistake. I said White Mountain instead of White Mountain. So I'm editing that right now. But check it out. And, you can never get enough data. That's how I view life.
Absolutely.
All right. So the next thing, we're moving on to a couple of national stories here. So I had covered with Taylor, the New Hampshire hiker, was here, and she's got a great background in the Appalachian Trail. So we had covered a search that has been ongoing for a 67-year-old attorney who is a professor at Southern Methodist University in Dallas. He's an avid hiker. He's hiked the southern part of the Appalachian Trail in and around Blood Mountain throughout his life and knows the area pretty well, but unfortunately he went missing. He was spotted by some folks on the day he was hiking. So he went missing on November 11th, and his name is Charles Hosh. And there's been ongoing, so he went into the summit of Blood Mountain, spoke with a ham radio operator. They were talking a little bit, and after that, no one's seen him since. So he was coming down from the top of the mountain when he was last seen. And they've had like basically a 2-week search for this guy involving over 100 people, helicopters, drone teams, multiple canine teams. No one's been able to locate the guy. So tough to know what happened. But unfortunately, because the search has been going on so long, they've suspended the formal search operations for him in and around Blood Mountain. But I'm assuming that there'll still be people out there looking, but the official search is over, and they haven't been able to locate him, which is wild to me. I feel like that area is not that big, but I don't know.
They were saying too, he had been hiking it throughout his entire life, so it's not like he was unfamiliar with the area. So I think that makes it an even sort of bigger question mark from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Right. He was 67, I want to say.
Yep.
He was... But just experienced, and that area in the North Georgia mountains it's some challenging terrain, but it's not, unapproachable, or, you got to wonder if there's a medical situation underlying or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound good. I mean, he's been gone for over 2 weeks at this point. So, or exactly 2 weeks at this point. So, it's not looking good, but I don't know. Maybe a miracle happened. Maybe he hit his head. It'd be like a Hallmark movie, Rebecca. Sometimes, like in Hallmark movies, someone will be like, they'll hit their head, they'll get amnesia, and then somebody will take them home and then take care of them, but they can't figure out who they are. And maybe that's just what's going on here.
I'm sure that's exactly it.
Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to think of on the bright side. And I've been watching a lot of Hallmark holiday movies, so we'll see what happens.
'Tis the time of year.
That's how we know that you have daughters at home.
Exactly. Well, what's tonight is Dancing with the Stars.
Oh boy,
it's like this is the Super Bowl for them. So
What was the Hallmark movie that you had the pitch for? Was it like Kittens for Waterville or something like that?
Yeah. It was about, it was a girl, like a lady, she's a boss girl that works down in Boston. And for whatever reason, like, I think, maybe she was supposed to go up and like close the deal and like buy the ski resort. And then she met some guy that like, I forget what I have a Google Doc of the script that I wrote. And I think
amazing.
the deal with the guy is that he had like some kids. One of the kids died, so he divorced his wife. And he was the president of the ski resort in Waterville Valley. And then like his kid died, and then he gave up being the president, and now he just does maintenance. He just works fixing like the ski lifts and lives in a shed in Waterville Valley. And the girl ends up showing up, and they end up getting into an argument, but eventually like they have these different like calamities where she gets injured skiing and he has to fix her up, and then eventually they like fall in love, and then he decides that he can run the ski resort after she buys it. So, and she convinces him to like reunite with his kids because he felt guilty that like one of his kids crashed into a tree and died when he was little, and he blames himself. So I have a whole script, so maybe I'll send it to Hollywood.
We can make this happen.
Rebecca is like, what is going on?
What is going on?
That just proves I've been a Slasher listener for a long time.
Oh my gosh.
Following the ongoing saga and the story.
Self-publish.
Rebecca, that's what we could do for your podcast. Is we could do like a Hallmark Channel mountain themed fiction podcast. We could do that.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It's like the opposite. You were trying to do it, I believe, a historic, like the complete opposite direction of what you were trying to do. Yeah. You're like, it'll be exactly like that, except that it's all fiction and it has nothing to do with history.
Nothing to do with history or the White Mountains.
It's going to be sounds like a Hallmark movie podcast.
Oh my gosh. I've never watched a Hallmark anything.
Oh, you haven't?
Oh gosh, no. That is not me. I'm not that girl. I like zombies.
You do.
That kind of stuff.
You should.
I watched 28 Days Later last night.
Oh, I do need to watch that. Have you watched the new Derry show on HBO?
No. I don't watch a ton of TV. I read a lot. I'm like obsessed with reading.
Well, if you have HBO, I would recommend getting Derry. Because if you like zombies and horror stuff, then...
Oh, is this the one that's about like only it's a TV show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I've heard about it. I haven't watched it.
Okay, well, I'll give you my HBO password and you can check it out.
Awesome.
Don't nobody tell HBO though. Awesome. All right, so this next one we've got, I think, Nick, you might have pulled this. So this is a deadly bear attack in Canada. What's going on here?
Yeah, so distraught grandmother shares photos of a young girl who was one of 11 mauled by a grizzly bear during a school trip. So this is up, it was a group of students and teachers on a walk in Bella Coola, which I've never heard of, but in northwest Vancouver. Looks like this past Thursday, and at least 11 people were injured, including 2 who are in critical condition, and 2 are considered seriously injured. So it sounds like basically they were out, and pretty much, the grizzly bear kind of ended up attacking them. So very unfortunate. There's pictures here of like their shoes all bloodied and stuff. It's just a mess. I mean, I think I definitely have a fear of grizzly bears if I ever go to any of these places, just because I've read so many of these stories. But basically, it was a grade 4 or 5 class that got confronted by the grizzly bear. It sounded like several people tried to intervene and actually try to, I guess, interrupt which I mean, to me is like you're pretty brave to try to interfere between a grizzly bear trying to do what it wants, because I feel like that never ends well, and they're just massive, powerful animals, and you can't really do much. And just kind of mentioning that the children were basically traumatized and everybody involved in the event, which is pretty understandable. And luckily, paramedics were sort of able to provide emergency medical treatment and transport them to a hospital pretty speedily. So yeah, careful for grizzly bears. I mean, that's one, we're lucky we just have black bears around here, but I feel like if I ever get out to Glacier or any of those places, I will be on alert the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never carry bear spray anywhere around here. Never even thought to do it, but I definitely would out there.
Yeah, they're just a totally different beast, no pun intended. They're not like our docile black bears that kind of eat berries and are likely to run away from you. I think if they're kind of pissed off and they want to attack you, they're going to attack you, and you can't really do much about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I wonder if this was a habituated bear or if it just felt kind of cornered or threatened, but the 11 people, that's a lot in an attack. I guess 2 of them were critically injured and pretty serious.
Yeah, they mentioned too, they were basically, the animal actually got away, so they haven't found it yet, which is kind of crazy. Yeah. But yeah, they mentioned it was in it sounds like sort of a borderline forested area outside sort of maybe a residential neighborhood, so it sounded like it kind of just wandered in there, and yeah, unfortunate.
It's like the worst field trip ever. Like if I were parents, I would, I would withdraw my permission slip.
Yeah. Be apprehensive for sure.
They should, instead of doing whatever they were doing, they should go to the Old Sturbridge Village.
Much safer. Much safer.
Yeah.
All right. So next, I think you pulled this story, I think, Mike. It sounds like we're headed down to Patagonia.
We are heading down to Patagonia. Plymouth Plantation. That's another one, Nick. Classic Massachusetts.
Or the Mayflower.
Did you grow up in Massachusetts, Andy?
I did. I'm a transplanted masshole. I remember going to Plymouth Rock for the first time, and even as a kid, I was like, that's it?
So
what is that?
Yeah. Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rock in a cage.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and Museum of Science, that's another good one.
That always, I have a special place in my heart for the aquarium and the Museum of Science. Always,
I still love going there as an adult.
Yeah.
So, anyway, hopefully they get that beer, and hopefully, I don't think those kids are ever going to go on a field. I wouldn't. If I was a kid, I would be like, I'm not going on another field trip ever again. I got attacked by a bear.
Not going to go outside the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty triggering event there. That's horrendous.
That's scary. So, all right. So moving on, we got another. This is a story out of Chile, Patagonia here. So, have any of you guys gone down to South America? I haven't been, Rebecca. No.
Nope.
Either. So the deal with this is, so the five hikers died in a tragic situation where they got caught in bad weather. It was a sudden blizzard. This was on November 17th. So this is on a Monday. High winds in a remote section of what's called the O Circuit Trail. So it's called the O Circuit Trail, and it's like just a O-shaped. It's like a big loop. And I pulled up some info on this thing here. So the O Circuit is it's a classic through hike trail in the Torres del Paine National Park in southern Chile's Patagonia region. There's another famous one called the W Trek, and a lot of people do the O. So it's a 70 to 80 mile an hour, or 70 to 80 mile distance loop that circles the entire Paine Massif. So you start and end near the same trailheads, usually Laguna Amarga or the W trailheads, and you basically walk around this entire mountain complex, and part of the time you've got to go over these passes. So it typically takes about 7 to 10 days, and it goes behind the mountains into a remote backside where the crowds thin out and the scenery feels a little bit more into the world. And it includes this section called the John Gardner Pass, which is where this incident happened. And this is considered the high point of the circuit. It's only about 4,000 feet. But, as we know, the weather can be significant at 4,000 feet. I guess when you get over this Gardner Pass, it gives you a big view of this glacier that's pretty prominent. So you're basically camping out. It's got established campsites where usually there's around 50 people at each campsite, and it requires advanced reservations. So this is like a through hike. It's typically done between like December and February. And it's like any other through hike, essentially. Like you get there, people go in groups. There's a lot of wealthy Europeans. Like a lot of these people that got caught up were like medical doctors and stuff, taking time off, young people. And what ends up happening is like a lot of people from Europe, other parts of South America, the U.S., they all just kind of get together, and it's like a big through hiking party where they'll make little groups, and then they decide like, okay, well, the 5 of us are going to go up with the 2 of you, and you get to know people as they're doing it. So that's what happened here, is that this was a situation where I guess there was like 5 core people from the UK that went hiking here, and the problem that they ran into is there was like 40 hikers that started off the day from the campsite, and they all just had little groups that they split up into. And as they got up towards this John Gardner Pass, there was a group of 5 people from the UK, and then I think there was a couple from Germany and maybe a Mexican national that are all up there. They got hit with the winds and basically like a flash blizzard. Now, typically what ends up happening is they've got forest rangers pretty well staffed and pretty well, from a safety perspective, they'll have like weather alerts and everything going on. But what happened this time is that it was a national election day in Chile. So all of they do mandatory voting. So it's not voluntary. Like by law, you need to go vote. So all of the forest rangers that are assigned to basically handle like the weather reports and monitor the trailheads and warn people if there's bad situations, they were all like not working. It was like a very minimal staff. So this first of all, this caused the warnings not to happen, that the weather was turning bad. And then second of all, the responses when they found out that shit went south, that caused a delay as well for the search and rescue side. So essentially you've got 8 to 10 campsites. Usually you've got 50 people that are in there. The weather was looking rough that day, but it looks, the article says that like a bunch of people made it through the pass. But by I think about 4 or 5 o'clock, this group went through, and some people turned around, but then some people just got trapped. And at that point, the 5 people that got hit in that storm essentially just like succumbed to the weather conditions. One of the ladies from the UK actually got rescued. They were taking her down in a litter, and unfortunately, like she had cardiac arrest, and they couldn't save her. So just a terrible situation. So unfortunately, 5 people lost their lives, and there's a lot of criticism about the fact that there wasn't forest rangers there or staffed at the level that they should be. But I mean, ultimately, people have to be responsible for their own safety, and it sounds like these people were experienced, but the lack of local knowledge is always dangerous. So you can take a guide, but most people do not take a guide on this route. So something to consider, but kind of a crazy story. And it's still, there's a lot of controversy. So I'll link some articles in the show notes for people to check out. But unfortunately, yeah, it's a tragedy. The crazy thing is a lot of the people that were involved were medical doctors. So they did have a lot of medical experienced staff that were there to help out, but they really, given the weather situation, couldn't do much.
You can imagine, like, even the situation we see up here where people have like their vacation planned and they want to hike Washington or do a Prezi Traverse or whatever. Like, I got to imagine going to somewhere like Patagonia, where being so far south in the world and kind of what you got to pay for a guide to get there and all the money you have invested, it's probably tough to be like, hey, I'm going to turn back and not do this thing that I've been looking forward to do for like maybe the past couple of years. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I imagine that, the notion of summit fever gets amplified when you have that much riding on a trip like that. Mm-hmm. And, when are you going to be back there? Realistically, people talk about, when am I going to go back and hike Mount Washington? Anytime. But I mean, that's a little different. And unfortunately sounds like a perfect storm, no pun intended, of things, with there being no staffing in terms of the forest service that they have. And then the conditions being deplorable. That's just tragic.
Yeah, it's a little early in the season right now. Like their summer season is like December to February, so a little early in the season. But people definitely, were there hiking. And I do wonder too what the dynamic is with these campsites, because they say like, oh yeah, there's around 50 people per campsite. It sounds to me like it's pretty crowded there, and maybe you're encouraged to move along and not stick around an extra day hanging out at a campsite, because there's going to be more people coming up behind you. So, but interesting. I'm intrigued. I want to check this place out. I always wanted to go to South America. Maybe this might be like a good hike in the future. Say
some of the peaks, keep it safe, just though. I was going to say some of the peaks in the shots here. Like I've seen definitely some like Nat Geo stuff on Patagonia, but some of the peaks and the way they're shaped, it looks like a lot of that range is like 8,000 to 9,000 feet it tops out at, but you got these really, really craggy, I don't know if they're volcanic peaks, but really otherworldly looking. Beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, that's like the southern part, the Ring of Fire there. I think there's a lot of tectonic collision that created those peaks, and yeah, super jagged.
Awesome. So yeah, I'll like I said, I'll link this in there, and maybe we'll take a slasher field trip, check this region out. I would love to do that. But I did want to do a quick little segment on winter hiking. So Rebecca, I always recommend the two episodes that you and Karen Washington did about intro to winter hiking. Those get a lot. Those are probably two of our most popular episodes overall, and there's a lot of good information in there. But I figured I would go over a couple of things for advice. When one of them was backpack size, and maybe Rebecca, maybe you can give your perspective. How big of a backpack do you advise for winter day hikes, and then how do you handle mounting your traction snowshoes, microspikes onto your pack? What's your system?
So I have it's a Outbound, I think, Hyperlight. I want to say it's a 35 liter, okay. And I carry that all the time because I'm like a huge minimalist. So I don't have more than one backpack that I use. I use the same pack all the time. Yeah. For that pack, I have a video actually of me doing it because somebody else, I want to say it was maybe you, but somebody had asked me once how I mount my snowshoes on it.
Yeah.
And same with my I used to have the Hyperlight, 2400, I think is what it was. You roll the top down on these packs, and then there's an extra strap that goes across that you can basically. I strap my snowshoes underneath that. Like I will weave that strap through it and like cinch it really, really tight, and it keeps them on there. And then my spikes I shove in the pocket because there's a front pocket.
Yeah, I've been with my spikes. I've been using a carabiner, and I just clip them to the outside, and that way typically.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Do that too for sure. I just I'm like such a grotesque minimalist that I just shove them in the pocket.
Yeah, that makes sense. So with 35 liter, and so it's a Hyperlight. So yeah, the Hyperlights. Mm-hmm. I found that the pocket in mine, I have a Southwest 3400, which is the 55 liter. I can just shove my snowshoes into the pocket, but I played around with different things. I like mount them one on each side. Sometimes if I'm really lazy, like if I'm backpacking, sometimes like I'll actually just stick them on the top of the brain, and then they're kind of floating above my head too, or maybe just perpendicular to the backpack as well. But I don't know, Andy, what is your system?
So I'm usually, if I'm day packing it, I have an Osprey 38, and I typically snowshoes, I'll weave the straps for the brain through them, and then, loosen them enough that it'll do that, and then cinch them down. So they're basically like, the brain is like over them and then cinched down, and they stick out, sideways, which only bites me in the butt when I'm trying to like squeeze between tight trees and things like that, because I have pretty big snowshoes, being a heavier person.
And are you always keeping them together, or do you like mount one snowshoe on one side and the other snowshoe on the other? Or have you ever played with that?
I make a sandwich out of them, so I'll put the traction side against the traction side, and then put them both underneath the brain and weave the straps through them and cinch them down.
I've been doing that too. I mostly stuff them in the pocket, but in fact, I found a carabiner that like allows me to connect two sections of my backpack, so I can actually just like drop the snowshoes on the outside, and they just fit right in there perfectly. But I don't know, Nick, I can't remember what do you do with your snowshoes?
So I've usually, for most winter day hikes, and I'm actually looking at getting one of the Hyperlight, like the Hyperlight 40 or like the 55. But after seeing mainly how Mike's looks, I will be getting one. I should say I'm waiting for a gift card to come through.
You deserve it.
For Christmas, hopefully from Santa. But I've got an Osprey Talon 33, and that one, it's got straps on the sides of it that actually, so I can put one snowshoe basically on each side of the pack. So they're standing up sort of vertically looking. The only thing that's a bummer with that is it kind of takes the use away from using those pockets that I'll usually put like Nalgene bottles in or something. Yeah. You can fit stuff in there with them, but it's a royal pain in the butt to get stuff out of there. So what I'll usually do is just kind of put them on there, and then I'll put my water bottles inside my pack. Usually in the winter, I'll throw one in the back net. And then spikes, I'm in the same boat where I'll usually just take a carabiner. I used to just hang them on one carabiner. Actually, my first hike I ever did with Mike was Owl's Head when you did it for winter. and I tripped in snowshoes, and the spikes slung around on one carabiner and actually smacked me in the forehead. Right. So I busted myself open on the summit of Owl's Head, which was fun. And Jake was right behind me with the Band-Aid, so kudos to Jake. But yeah, after that experience, I 100% of the time make sure I put 2 carabiners and have the spikes suspended so that they can't sling around and slingshot you. You'd think that you couldn't do that, but I assure you that it can happen. And I was lucky, frankly, that it didn't hit me in the eye because they were Hillsound trail crampons and they were not like, they were heavier. So yeah, it was a memorable experience, but that's kind of how I roll.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I've had them swing around and whap me in the shoulder, but not in the face yet. But now that you've said that, maybe I'll add a second one and secure him a little better.
It's one of those, like, I think Steve was behind me. He's like, did you just hit yourself in the face with your spikes? And I'm like, am I bleeding? He's like, oh yeah, you're definitely bleeding. I
forgot about that.
It actually wasn't too bad. It was more because I was sweaty and stuff, but it was one of those things that it can happen. So you definitely need to be careful that you secure them properly. But I'm definitely kind of in the market for getting something a little bit bigger. I don't know if I'll go with the 40 or the 55, but it has been a little crammed at times. There's been a couple times too. Like if I'm doing it overnight, I have a Gregory, like, I don't know if it's like 55 or 60. And I'll do the same thing, kind of like you were saying, a lot of you were mentioning, where you kind of strap them under the brain and sandwich them sort of traction side together. That's kind of a pain though, like you said, Andy, because if you go squeeze through somewhere, sometimes they'll get caught up on things. Yeah. And also if you need to get in your backpack, like you got to take your snowshoes off and do that whole deal.
True.
But yeah, snowshoes are just such the crux of like winter hiking. It's
right. If you don't take them, you're going to need them. And then if you take them, you don't need them. But yeah, the double carabiners to pin down the micro spikes. And then I kind of picked that up from Peter and Jake. They do that. And then they also use that for their crampons too. They keep the crampons on the outside and sandwich them together and just have 2 carabiners. And it stays pretty safe. So all good. And then Rebecca, can you give the listeners your breakdown on, what is your system? What are your rules around when you're wearing snowshoes, and then when it's okay to switch over to micro spikes, and what's your whole philosophy or approach on that?
Well, if I'm going to be breaking trail, if it's going to be unconsolidated, I'm obviously going to be wearing snowshoes because it's just miserable trying to do anything like that kind of in spikes. It's I guess I don't even know. It's hard to even, because it's just is so sort of like natural to just do. I know what I'm doing. I guess like in terms of assessing what I'm going to be getting myself into, I check the weather first. Like I have Mountain Forecast as that and New England Trail Conditions are like the 2 websites I stalk a lot during this time of year, and then the Facebook groups to see what the conditions are going to be like, and if it's going to be snow that is not consolidated. And like right now is a weird time of year because it's really where I've been going. It's very shoulder season-ish, so you don't necessarily know what you're going to need. And when you're only getting 6 inches of powder, you're not going to be wearing snowshoes on that because you're going to be walking on rocks.
It's too bony, yeah.
Yeah, so like you're going to be in spikes, and it's going to be gross and annoying, but like that's what this time of year is like. And then in terms of like spikes, I don't love wearing them all the time because they crush my feet and make me have like numb toes and foot pain. So I try to not put on spikes for as long as I can. And then like again, it's really truly it's trail condition wise. Like if it's all ice, obviously I'm going to be in spikes, but if it's like if I'm hiking at Mount Pierce and it's a consolidated footpath, I'm not going to wear my spikes if I don't have to. I'll probably put them on for more of the downhill because that's when you're going to be doing a lot more slipping and sliding. But yeah, I usually will really go based on trail conditions. And if I don't know and it's like later in the winter season, then I will bring snowshoes because I don't want to get there and then need them and not have them.
Right. Yeah, and I'll typically... I always just kind of assume that I'm going to bring snowshoes, but if I am going to switch over to micro spikes, it's typically I've started with snowshoes and then I see like, all right, the trail's really packed down, and maybe I go in the morning too. So like if it's like really cold still and I can get away with it, I know I'm not going to post hole, then I'll switch over to spikes sometimes. Going up. Sometimes I'm too lazy once I have the snowshoes, but I do tend to. The more I do winter hiking, the more I sort of tend to like say, I'm going to just wear snowshoes on the way back thinking I'm just going to clean the trail up, I guess is my thought.
Well, it's really pretty. Like, it just feels like you're making this beautiful footpath.
Right.
It's like very aesthetically pleasing.
Yes.
The trench.
It's almost like an ASMR thing.
I know. And I bought those snowshoes with the lifts on them too. So like matter of fact, last time I saw you on trail with we were coming up like
you were
Mount
with your
Tom.
daughter.
Yeah, I was with my daughter and a crew. It was nice to just have those lifts because it's a steady climb, which is good.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, those televators, they feel like a cheat code. It's awesome.
Do you have anything to add to this one, Andy? Any perspective?
I do think if, folks are questioning, I would prefer people wear snowshoes and not destroy trails by post-holing. I mean, you're going to have a bad time, but also for the sake of the trail. If you're in the 80Ks, you have to carry your snowshoes during the certain times of the year. We don't quite have that here, but I wind up, doing some pretty extensive looking at what trail conditions are going to be. And, if I got to give my snowshoes a ride, it's a pain in the butt, but I'd rather have them available rather than do post-hole city and wreck a trail.
Awesome. I don't know, Nick, if we covered everything or if you have any other thoughts.
No, as far as traction, I don't think I have many thoughts. I will add on to the fact too, like Andy, you were saying in the 80Ks, I've been checked twice coming out of the 80Ks out of the lodge in the winter. Mm-hmm. So like that is a legit thing. If you're a Slasher listener and you want to venture over to the 80Ks and you haven't been there yet in the winter, I've had rangers check me at like 4:35 in the morning before leaving there. Wow. So they'll check you. You got to have them on you, even if the trail is pretty packed. I think it's like over 6 or 8 inches of snowpack. But even that though, like the caveat with that, I will say is like you were talking about earlier, Rebecca, like this time of year or even just certain times of the year, it can be really bony or depending how the trail is. So, and sometimes you're going to just bash the crap out of your snowshoes. Like keep in mind, like these snowshoes, you get MSRs, you get tubs, they're mountaineering snowshoes. They're meant to beat the crap out of them. Like, don't feel like, oh God, I'm stepping on a rock. Like I'm going to like, trust me, you can beat the living crap out of some of these snowshoes and they will be totally fine. You can scratch them up and whatever, and they're meant to walk on rock and ice to some degree. So don't be afraid to kind of beat them up a little bit. But obviously you don't want to be walking across like just sheer ledge and rock on them. That's not what they're meant for. And it's going to hurt you a lot trying to do that. Similar to wearing spikes on bare rock. Yeah,
I have MSR lightning ascents, and I've abused the crap out of those, and they take the abuse. So you're absolutely right there.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's a little bit on the winter stuff here. I have a segment on boots, socks, and gaiters. We're running up on time a little bit, but Andy, you had some note here that's intriguing to me. It says Andy shorts and gaiters winter ventilation method. So I don't know what's going on there, but you do strike me as a guy that wears shorts like well into like January, February. So
I am totally guilty of that. I run really hot, so if the weather conditions are agreeable enough, I will wear shorts on winter hikes. And if I'm questioning snow depth as an issue, I'll put gaiters on with shorts. And I've worn shorts and snowshoes. I've done all kinds of weird combinations. Of course, I got pants in my pack if I need to swap them out. But I'll set out on, with shorts as a default more often than not, unless we're talking about, extended time above tree line or disagreeable conditions. But it keeps me nice and cool out there. And then, I can throw the pants on if I need them.
Awesome. All right. So, Nick, we're running a little bit behind here, so I think I'm going to skip the dad jokes. You okay if we skip the music minute? We'll do the AI music we're going to cover. We'll do that next episode.
Yeah, we can save that. That's fine.
All right. So, just some PSAs here. So, if you want to get free stickers, go check out Ski Fanatics or Spinner's Pizza Parlor in Andover, Mass. If you want to get swag, you can go to the online bonfire shop. The link is in the show notes, and you can pick out hoodies, t-shirts. Color selection is great, and they're priced to move. So help spread the word about Slasher and Represent Today. And then shout out, we got some coffee donations. So if you want to donate to support the podcast, we need another run of stickers and I gotta get you those patches, Nick, too. But we need another run of that, so if you want to donate, that would be helpful. But shout out to Run Catherine H, or Kathy H. She bought 3 coffees, and then Judy C. Thank you, Judy. She's been a long-time listener. 3 coffees. She says, giving thanks to you this Thanksgiving for all you do to educate and inform the hiking community and the whites and beyond. We appreciate you. I think she's talking to you, Nick. So
Thanks, Judy.
yes. And then Alex M. bought 4 coffees. He said, "Thankful for this podcast. Happy holidays to Mike, Nick, and Stomp." So thanks, Alex.
Happy holidays,
Great
Alex.
stuff.
Yep, and you can consider becoming a monthly supporter and become a Slasher Senator, and we'd greatly appreciate that.
Yes, definitely.
Do that.
Hey, hold my beer. It's time to find out what Mike and Stomp are drinking. On this week's Beer Talk.
And now's the part of the show where we typically talk about beer, but I'm not drinking anything. I don't know. Andy, you don't drink.
No, I'm actually, I feel like a 12-year-old. I got an Uncrustable, and I'm drinking a Body Armor Light peach mango
nice.
right now.
Nice. And Rebecca, I don't think you drink either, right?
No, I don't. I'm drinking I don't know what these things are. They're not iced tea, but they're like tea bags that you can put in cold water. And then they taste really good. And I'm eating really healthy candy, sour stripes.
Ooh, those look good. Those look good.
So
Tasty.
Yeah.
I'm very adult as well.
I feel like with our guests, more often than not, people do not drink versus drinking. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, the first time I came on the show, I thought I was a weirdo for that, but then you said no, it's actually more common.
Yeah, I think I think it's more often that people just say that they're on the wagon or they're not drinking. So, which is fine. I'm not drinking tonight either. But Nick, you wanted to just give a shout out to the Reckless guys for the
I wanted to shout out the Full Conditions IPA. I had one of those at the Reckless event. It was delicious. And then I tried a Trees for Troops Spruce Tips Red Ale at the after party. I had a beer, so it was good. It's quite tasty, and it tasted like Christmas. I wanted to know, and kind of hard to brew a beer that tastes good with spruce tips. I think, and Reckless nailed it. I'm not sure I'd have three or four of them. Not that I'm drinking that much these days, but yeah, it's kind of an intense flavor, but it was tasty. Fit the evening. So thanks, Reckless.
Awesome. We will. We're going to put links to Reckless in the show notes, and then I think they said something about a new distributor, so maybe they'll be. I hadn't had any issues finding Reckless stuff around, but I'll try to get a list on where you can buy more.
I knew we should have gone left back there.
Stomp, don't worry. I know it's this way. I've got a feeling in my gut.
Are you sure you're not about to have a bowel emergency?
Totally. We got this.
But I just blew out my hip. Fell down that gully with my 40-year-old microspikes.
Suck it up, Stomp. It's 4 p.m. We're at 3,500 feet. We got 9 miles back to the parking lot. Your leg may be broken. We got no cell connection, and we can't feel our fingers. But we're finishing all of my list tonight. By the way, I need some water. I'm empty.
I would if I could see what I'm doing, but my headlamp batteries are dead.
You gotta be kidding me. What a chump. This is the last time I hike with you.
Whatever, mister. Do you know me? I have a podcast.
Whatever.
Let's find out what Mike and Stomp have been hiking.
All right, so this is the part of the show where we talk about recent hikes. I got nothing. I've been sick. I am getting out this weekend. I'm going to do a 52 with a view with my friend Jay. But Nick, where have you been, nice. And where are you planning on going?
So before the Reckless event, got up to the Whites officially for the first time in 2 months. So I was very excited, to say the least. I think me and Peter both hadn't been up there, and we were darting off down the trail in the morning. But we did Mount Garfield. Most of us, I think, needed it for fall, or needed it for the grid at least. I needed it for fall and for November. So it kind of fit the bill for all of us. Pretty cloudy up top, unfortunately. So got some cool shots with the sun sort of burning through, but still a beautiful day. Trail was packed. We had spikes on pretty much the whole time. There's ice and a little bit snow down low. I'd say there's probably a foot or two maybe heading up towards the summit of Garfield. We had heard someone needed snowshoes early in the week, but it was completely packed out for us. So that was pretty cool. And so kind of made a good time. It's funny, we got there really early and finished pretty earlier than we thought. So we had some extra time. We hit Reckless for lunch. And I kind of was jonesing to make the most of my time up in New Hampshire before going back home. So I think Peter was sort of feeling the same way. So we did Mount Aggassiz up in Bethlehem that I've heard really good things about for a while and haven't checked out. think it's like maybe a little over, I think it was like 0.8 or something going up. So like 1.6 round trip, and it's like 600, 700 feet. You kind of go up an old fire road. And absolutely gorgeous views looking. It's got to be like mostly south, but you can kind of see from like, granted there was cloud cover hanging over, but imagine like basically the Twins, Galehead, Garfield area all the way across to Franconia to Cannon. We actually could see sort of the base of South Kinsman and Moose Lock, and then you could see all the way to the east. Was able to zoom in with my phone camera, and you can actually see Stowe out in the distance in Vermont. So really wide encompassing view. I think it'd probably be a pretty killer sunset spot, or maybe to get back for some night shots sometime. But it's a lot of fun and good use of our time before the Recklessville conditions event. And see, maybe I'm scoping out my next move. So I think my birthday's kind of coming up. So my wife was asking me, she's like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" I'm like, "I just kind of want to get out and go hiking one day." So probably take a weekday from work and try to sneak up and bag some stuff for fall, even though it's looking pretty wintry up there right now. What about you, Rebecca and Andy? You guys been up to anything?
Sorry,
I should have said one of you. Sorry, not to make you guys scramble.
I apologize for jumping in. I was just flowing on the order here.
No, it's fine. I made it awkward for you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I did a quick sunrise jaunt on Kearsarge North a couple weeks ago, but then today I was out on Avalon just between work ending and us recording tonight, and that was nice, moody but beautiful sky, and bare boots up and spikes down. Was able to run a little bit on the way down. It was a good.
How's the steep section going up on Avalon? Is it easy to navigate? It's not too slick?
Yeah, I was able to bare boot it up. I definitely wanted the spikes coming down. There is some ice there. There's enough snow coverage on it that you can, dig some little, pound some footholds out and just grab the rock and go. I'm sure that'll change after this rain on snow and then freeze up that we got coming here. But right now it's actually pretty agreeable.
Nice. And then Rebecca, where you been? You must have been out recent.
Yeah, I went Saturday. I did a loop on the Moats, up Moat Mountain Trail, down Red Ridge, and tomorrow I'm heading up to do the Moats again. Going up Moat Mountain Trail,
Fun.
out and backing to the Red Ridge Junction, and then that's it. I'm done with what I can do for round 2 of the guide until the spring, so I can do whatever I want again.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've been hiking every weekend for since August 25th. So a long time.
Yeah, it's a good run. And then going down Red Ridge, how was that?
It wasn't bad.
No.
I wore my Hill Sound spikes this time because the last time I did this loop, it was terrifying. And I had Catula spikes, and I was like, I literally slid down the ice on the Mountain Trail and banged my elbow so hard. I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. And I still have an entire remainder of the hike, and it was terrifying. So I have Hill Sounds now, and I love them, and they worked so good. Mm-hmm. It was so much better.
Yeah, I feel like with Red Ridge, it doesn't get a lot of travel in the colder months for sure, but there's always 1 or 2 rescues every year or two in the winter where people decide to take it, but they don't know what they're getting into, and then it's never broken out, and it's a tougher trail for sure.
Yeah, I love that trail. That I've never done it in winter conditions, but that trail's amazing. Yeah.
Coming up in the summer and a misty morning is just it's awesome. You get above tree line, you get above the clouds, and it's just a great view.
One thing I wanted to call out to you, just because, Rebecca, you brought up sort of Hill Sounds versus Catulas, because a lot of people ask me this question, including actually one of my buddies asked me literally a few days ago. But as far as the difference, so Hill Sound trail crampons, the spikes are 1/2 inch in the front to 2/3 inch in the rear. Catulas are 3/8 of an inch. So you're talking, in general, just bigger spikes on those Hill Sound trail crampons. So they're a little bit better, I think, at penetrating, when you got black sheer ice or things like that. I prefer the trail crampons kind of for actual winter. I have Catula micro spikes for more the shoulder. See, when it's more actual shoulder season, just thin ice or thin snow. But just wanted to shout that out because a lot of people have questions about kind of what's the difference between those two.
It's time for Slasher's Notable Hike of the Week. If you want to be considered for the hike of the week, simply tag Slasher on your social media post.
Awesome. Okay, so now we're moving on to, do we skip notable listener hikes, or do we we'll run it up on time here, Nick?
You want to bang them out? We don't have a ton.
Yeah.
I'll run through them quick.
Bang them out.
All right. First up, we got I hate picking a username. Our friend Jen Coons, which she always her handle always shows up, and I'm like, oh, it's Jen. Wachusett Loop, so kind of my stomping grounds, and she did Mountain House to High Meadow to Jack Frost Summit back down by Mountain House, so a nice little loop there. Some of my favorite trails there. B. Adams Photography, Burnt Rock Mountain in Vermont. And they were mentioning they loving the stick season, but we're catching up from maybe a couple weeks, so I think they probably have more snow now, and it's not as much stick season in some of those areas in Vermont. Our friends Paul Gamel and Steve had a spectacular yet windy day on Franconia Ridge a couple weeks back with a crazy undercast. I was jealous. This is the day I was in the Belknaps looking up north. But they did mention that they were post-holing quite a bit, and there was kind of an unexpected snow drifts up there, so it was a lot of work. That friggin' hiker did dinner with a view before the full conditions event. It looked like it was Mount Aggassiz, so I'm not positive. Let us know, that friggin' hiker, if I was right by the guess there. Folkstar, Stinson for 31 out of 52 at the view. Paul Lamar just kind of shouted out our Mark Garfield and Mount Aggassiz hikes before the full conditions show. Made a nice little Instagram reel with some music for it, so it was great hanging out with you, Paul, and getting out. Outdoor Adventures with Huck. He had another nice reel, but an NH winter weekend with Mount Pemmy, Flume Gorge. He had some really cool drone shots, and I had never met him in person before, so nice to meet you. Outdoor Adventures with Huck.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Marley Sue 2 with What Donna Hamilton Photographs did Imp Face for 41 out of 52 with a view before the full conditions event. Then we had solo hikes Mount Pemmy before the full conditions winter kickoff event, and then they did Cabot in the Horn the next day, which sounded like an interesting trek. So any favorites?
I'll go with solo hikes. I think the Cabot in the Horn, that's a fun one.
I know you're missing a dog in this one, Mike, so I'm sorry. I didn't see any recently fine. Dog tags.
We'll get it next time. So.
And there was much rejoicing.
Let's dive into some White Mountains history, shall we?
All right, so we're going to move on to a history segment here. So we had kicked around a couple of ideas, and I think we settled on talking about logging railroads of the White Mountains. And then, we've all been like texting each other a bunch today. So there's a bunch of books that are available to check out. So Rebecca recommends the Bill Cove is the main guy, but there's another writer named Francis Belcher that Andy had called out. So there's like 5 or 6 of these books that have extensive details about the history of the logging operations and sort of the evolution of the forest barons and the conservation efforts that went into the White Mountains in the 1800s and the 1900s. So we'll include the links to all of these books if you want to check them out. You can buy them, and Rebecca and Andy and Nick will talk about. They've between the three of them, they've read a bunch of these. But I guess maybe starting off with Andy, do you want to give a little bit of an overview about like as a hiker, what should we be thinking about when it comes to logging roads? How do you spot these, and what's the background on this stuff?
Sure. So because of the nature of the remnants of these rail lines, they lend themselves very well to have been developed in later stages with our hiking trails and some of the forest roads and fire roads as well. If you're out on a trail looking to spot a rail grade, if you're a nerd like me and into trains, you're looking for something that looks like a really unnaturally flat contour, something that's kind of uniform, or you've got cut and then there's fill gone in there. Those are all clues. But the biggest giveaway, and you can see this in Lincoln Woods in a lot of places, are remnants of old ties or railroad spikes. So you can actually see those wooden ties partially buried within the ground. If you're at river or stream crossings, you can see there are leftover stone abutments of the bridges that used to traverse those. And those would be, kind of your visual cues to see, what was kind of here before. And like I said, those lend themselves really well to being passive, lower resistance to kind of form our trail networks.
Yeah, and I know I've hiked with Dave and Stomp, and like bushwhackers will use these they're not even railroads, but like the logging cuts as well that you can operate. But I think anytime you're talking about a logging operation, for the most part in the 1800s, like there was railroads pretty close by. But yeah, you can sort of see how, and we'll talk about this, but a lot of these there's a fair number of trails that were built on top of these railroads, which is good. So I want to talk a little bit about the history here, Andy, about the how did we get from clear cutting to this nice forest that we have right now?
Sure. Basically, looking at timeline, roughly the 1870s through mid 1900s. Most of them went out before that, but the White Mountains are really crisscrossed with numerous of these what were mostly temporary logging railroads. They'd be built specific and purpose built for a certain operation in a certain area, and then when they no longer served a purpose, the railroad would be pulled out. Sometimes these ghost towns, these logging towns, would spring up and then would go out, and we'll touch on a few of those as well. The scars that have been left by the railroads and the logging efforts helped motivate what was known as the Weeks Act. And many of those scars and trails are now bringing people back to the forest that has been restored in the time that has elapsed since the resource extraction with the logging. And basically the Weeks Act was in 1911. That was a conservation law that basically allowed the federal government to purchase private land in the eastern U.S. to protect headwaters of navigable rivers. But it also established a framework for fire protection between federal, state, and private entities. And it's widely considered one of the more successful pieces of conservation legislation that wound up leading to the creation of many of the eastern national forests, including the White Mountain National Forests.
Yeah, and it's episode 104. We did a little bit of a background on the Weeks Act, and it's called the steam gauge controversy. Essentially, this was what kind of flipped. This was the final battle between the logger barons and conservation, and it's kind of a weird dynamic back then, like in the late 1800s. So the state of New Hampshire had a problem where they ran out of money, and they needed, the best way for them to get money was to sell the rights to the logging operations so that they could pay for their education system down south. So they had no money, and they basically just sold off all the rights, and that gave them the ability to build the schools and pay for the education they needed. But the problem is that these logging operations got more and more money, and they started squeezing out the smaller farmers because they bought these huge tracts of land. And then the farmers used to be able to rely on, like, oh, I can buy 10 more acres, and then the logging operations were basically like, yeah, if you want to buy anything, it's a minimum of like 100 acres or 1,000. So what happened was a lot of the younger kids, they used to be able to farm, and then they could switch over to their logging operations in the farms and make some money off season, but they couldn't do that as successfully anymore because they ran out of like logging in their land, and they couldn't afford to buy bigger plots from the logging operation. So a lot of the sons of these farmers were kind of forced to go work for, I think the guy's name is J.E. Henry was the big one. And it's kind of this weird dynamic where they didn't want to, but they had to join the forest operations. And over time, essentially, like there was this one reverend, his name was John Edgar, and he published the printing press. It's that it changed the world, but he published this article called The Boa Constrictor of the White Mountains, which was essentially saying, like, you're ripping up our mountains, and you're damaging the ecosystem. And then they were able to somehow prove that because they stripped the forest so much, that the flooding was impacting the flow of the rivers and the drainage. And that was just another, I guess, weapon that they were able to use to justify the Weeks Act, and then to accelerate. Once the Weeks Act came in, they used that to accelerate the purchasing of the forest to protect it. But before that, there was just this crazy amount of logging that went in, and then they in order for them to facilitate that, they put in these railroads that we now hike on.
I think a lot of people don't realize maybe how extensive logging was. And I kind of was looking at, we were all nerding out, I think, with the railroad sort of abandoned town discussion this afternoon. But I was looking at kind of old growth forest and how much of the whites have been cut down, and kind of came across an article that was mentioning that it's estimated that less than 1% of the Green Mountain National Forest and the White Mountain National Forest is actually old growth forest. So that's trees that are mostly, or parts of the forest with trees mostly over 150 years old. So there's actually a sect even of old growth forest on Wachusett. But New England, and certainly the White Mountain National Forest as a whole, you're talking 99% of it basically has been cut down within the past 150 years. So odds are, if you're looking at a tract of forest, it's been cut down fairly recently, really, I think, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things. And actually, it probably most of New England kind of falls under that category too, to some extent, at least up into Maine.
Yeah, it's really alarming, actually, how difficult it is to find old growth in New England. You actually have to do pretty good searching. I mean, there's a small tract in Maine that I always like to go to in the 100-mile wilderness. But again, a lot of logging history up there as well. So it's in the overwhelming minority, these tracts of old growth.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think. One of the things that's interesting, and I think, Andy, you can get into this, is that as fast as everything got set up, like the whole infrastructure in this, I think, like it was probably from the 1860s until like the 1910s, it all disappeared basically within maybe a 20 to 30 year period once the Weeks Act came in. And then they just had to repurpose some of these old lines. So I don't know if you want to give a rundown of, what some of these, where some of these railroads were and what they are now.
Sure. There were so many of them, and they had finite length of operations, because either they were ousted by the Weeks Act, or the logging became unsustainable in the area that they were pulling from, and the railroad was no longer necessary for that. But there's several of these, I can touch on that are, I particularly interest the ones that are either on or near existing hiking trails in the Whites that you can potentially, see the remnants of, or know that you're kind of on part of that old railroad line. And probably one of the more prominent ones is the EB&L, the East Branch and Lincoln, in the Pemmy Wilderness. That one had a kind of a long-standing operation, roughly 1893 to 1948, and that was the largest of the logging railroads in all of New England. They actually had about 70 miles of track that all radiated out of Lincoln, kind of was the epicenter there. And while the Pemmy certainly feels like this deep wilderness now, a century ago, you're looking at a noisy industrial forest. You have trestles, logging camps, steam locomotives, kind of a bustling industrial, mecca in there, in a sharp contrast to what's going on now. And there were numerous trails in there that exist on that grade, primarily the Lincoln Woods Trail. Think about how flat that is and how long it's flat for. And that's along the old main line beside the East Branch of the Pemmy. And then, of course, the Wilderness Trail and the Franconia Brook Trail, continuing deeper into the Pemmy, are also on old rail beds going towards 13 Falls and Stillwater Junction. And then as you get deeper in there, you've got the Bondcliff Approach and Thoreau Falls, and over towards Owl's Head as well. There's long stretches that still follow the East Branch and Lincoln lines there. And that's where you can see a lot of those old ties that kind of come through the earth there. You're often stepping over them, and some people are probably unaware of what those are or what they were from.
How old are those ties?
You're looking, most of the ties that are still there are in the newest, would be like 1940s, and potentially into the late 1800s. But the absolute newest they could have been would be probably early 1940s, because they started, World War II, they didn't do any upkeep to the tracks, even though the EB&L went out post World War II. They weren't really doing track maintenance, so any ties that were there went in pre-World War II.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that like hikers over the years must have taken, like I still do this, as a matter of fact, like we walk along the Mountain Division Trail in Maine, but like we'll pick up the old spikes, and you can. Yeah. Those things are actually great to use as like you can use them, make a coat hanger out of them, and like shine them up or whatever. But I'm assuming over the years, like the hikers have all just picked up those old metal spikes and collected them over the last 100 years or so.
Yeah, some of the artifacts get harder to find, spikes or nails, and one of the ones I used to like to find were the glass insulators from the comms and power lines that were run. Those can be harder to find now as well. But the ties, driven into the earth there, and as erosion takes hold and kind of peels back a layer of the earth, you can see them in a lot of places. And when washouts happen, it'll uncover some of them, and you'll know that this is right where the track was.
Yeah, and everybody knows Lincoln Woods for sure is the famous logging operation. And then next up here you have Zealand Notch. I don't think about this as much. Like, is the Zealand? Is this where the Zealand Road is? Is that where the railroad used to go, and then into the trail ahead that we know?
Yeah, more or less. This was a shorter line, also under J.E. Henry control. Basically 1884 to 1897 in this section, so much more of a finite existence here. And you're looking at Ethan Pond Trail and the AT going through Zealand Notch on this roadbed. It's a pretty gentle, consistent grade. When you're hiking through there, you can make pretty good time coming through there. It's wide in areas and not a really demanding grade there. The part that interests me the most, the area between like the Hut and going towards Thoreau Falls and Shoal Pond, you're basically right on that old main line underneath the cliffs of White Wall. When I went over to bushwhack White Wall, it's very obvious you're on an old rail line. In fact, if you're looking from Z Cliff down, you can see that contour, and that it's more than just a hiking trail because it is so deliberately flat and consistent grade there. So it can be picked up from above when you're looking down upon it.
Imagine riding through there in the 1800s. Like, what a view.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
I mean, these were industrial lines, but they had world-class views. If they were, tourist operations, it would be some of the most amazing. I mean, it's good that there aren't railways crossing through these protected areas now. But wow, I mean, imagine going to work and you're cutting below White Wall. I mean, that's just gorgeous.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then Rebecca, you've read a bunch of books about these real lines. What do you have to add?
The books that I focused on so far were the Bill Cove series. So I've read 3 of the 4, and they do talk about how a lot of what you've already touched on, and there's a ton of really cool hand-drawn maps that show all of the railroad tracks, and then it also has on there where some of the old logging camps are located. There was actually a point in time where they did have some people as kind of like a way to make money. They did actually take people for rides on Zealand's railroad into that area. So that was actually a thing that was done, but it was not like the way you would consider riding on a train nowadays for like a fun pleasure ride. It was obviously a lot more like hop on the back and let's go kind of thing for people. And my favorite logging railroad, well, I don't know. Okay, it's really hard to decide because there's a lot. But if I had to pick, the reason I picked the trail I adopted is Cedar Brook Trail is actually an old logging railroad. And there's an old logging camp on Cedar Brook Trail that is really cool. It's actually a really nice old logging camp, lots of artifacts. And there's so many. I mean, if you actually like look at some of these maps that this guy has drawn out, it is so cool. And it's really eye-opening just to see how much of the area was overtaken by logging. And I mean, there's even like old kilns and stuff that were located near where Zealand Road kind of meets that. I don't remember what the main road is right there that leads out to Washington.
302.
302.
Yeah.
There's in that area. I mean, there's just so much history out there. It's crazy. And another really cool thing to see if you ever do East Side Trail, I think it is. There's a I want to say it's on East Side or Wilderness. It's on that area. There is an old stove, like massive iron, or I think it's iron stove, literally like kitchen cooking stove out there that's just planted in the middle of the wilderness from back when there were logging camps. And you'll notice a lot of spots, especially along like Wilderness Trail and even on Lincoln Woods Trail, where there's the intersection between where Osseo Trail bangs a left if you're heading in towards the wilderness. Right after Osseo Trail takes a left, there's kind of like an area on the left-hand side that's kind of a lot of like openness to it, and it's a lot of like greenery, not so much trees. That's where an old logging camp was. Like there's a lot of spots that you might notice out in the woods that look like that, and that's because those were old logging camps.
So those books, Bill Cove, he's got a bunch of maps so essentially the way to think about these rail lines, you got the rail lines where we've converted most of those into trails. Those are nice because a lot of them are going to be a little bit less elevated. They'll be flatter. And then you've got the camping or the campsites where the loggers would hang out at. And then in addition to that, in some of the bigger areas, you've got like Zeeland and Livermore, which were the old abandoned towns. There's also... up.
Yeah, and then there was also a town that is really cool. The Wild River Wilderness was also logged at one point, and that area was just like the Wild River just did not want people to be in it. It is like, just get out of here and stop trying to make roads. Constantly being like everything's being destroyed. And there was a town, Hastings, that is kind of like not a ghost town, but kind of like this. There's a kind of like lore around it, and that town was located right where Evans Notch, kind of like right before Evans Notch Road on the end there. And there's even like a little plaque thing and stuff. And there are some artifacts out there that you can find. And then also on the trail, it's called the Roost. There's a little loop hike that's in Evans Notch that also has some old artifacts that are remnants from when there was a town. There was like a town. They actually converted a lot of it over to the CCC camp at one point, I believe. So there's a lot out there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like everyone thinks of Livermore, but like there's a lot more of those abandoned towns that are out there that I didn't even know about Hastings, but it's definitely worth it to pick those books up because it's just like a treasure of information in them.
Yeah, the book that I recommend for if you're interested about the Wild River area is called Where the Wild River Flows. And it's written by, I believe it's the daughter of a family that lived there back when there was a town there. And they actually are the ones who maintain Black Angel Trail. So.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, it's a really, really good book.
Trail.
I loved it. It has lots of great pictures.
Nice.
It's funny you say that about like the Wild River just doesn't want anybody near it. Yeah. So, all right. So we talked about Zeeland. What else are we going to talk about here, Andy?
I think most people, if you're thinking of the sort of telltale abandoned logging town, most people think of Livermore and the Sawyer River Railroad, which that was basically the existing Sawyer River Road follows the old corridor up the valley from near Bartlett there. Some really smooth grades. It's great for, mountain biking. Right now you can't drive down the road to the Kerrigan Trailhead because it's been washed out, but you can see a lot in there. There's old cellar holes, bridges, relics, and this is the one that's really got that ghost town feel that a lot of people talk about when they check out Livermore. I know, Nick, you put in some stuff on Livermore and also Kerrigan, which is a lesser known ghost town in there.
Yeah, they're both in that area. Like you were saying, Andy, Livermore for sure is one that you kind of notice. It's funny, even this is kind of the time of year to check it out. I think stick season or even winter, you're going to notice it kind of along Sawyer River Road walking out to Kerrigan, especially now that the road's washed out, you get to walk down it. But yeah, like you mentioned, Andy, you'll see foundations and like full stone kind of, I don't know if there's like almost railroad trestles, like you can see a ton of stuff in the woods over there. And it's very evident that there was a settlement here at one point. Yeah, kind of as you mentioned, Andy, like a lot of these towns too are sort of boom and bust. Livermore is one of the longer lasting kind of, I guess, logging towns that existed in the Whites. Pretty well known for that. But found back in 1876 by the Saunders family. And again, pretty much existed just for timber cutting, sawmilling, and pulpwood production. Was served by the Sawyer River Railroad, a private logging railroad about 7 miles long, and it was built in 1877. The town was pretty large, included a sawmill, a company store, boarding houses, workers' homes, a school, blacksmith shop, and sort of other buildings that supported the community. It's estimated that about at its peak, 150 to 200 people lived here in the late 1800s, so kind of when that lumber industry was booming before the Weeks Act moved in. This is one of the only logging towns that was incorporated as an actual township. It had its own government, school district, and it actually was listed in U.S. Census at this time. And kind of after a while, like with most of these logging towns, you figure you got timber going everywhere, you got people, you got sawmills, you got oil and sort of fuel and people burning things. A lot of them pretty much ended up like suffering really bad fires. So frequent fires damaged the mills and buildings in Livermore, and a major fire in 1907 destroyed most of the town, including the sawmill itself. Pretty much by the timber supply diminishing in the early 1900s, repeated fires, this area gets flooded repeatedly. As you've seen, Sawyer River Road got washed out again. I think it's been washed out twice since I've been paying attention and hiking in the Whites. It's just kind of a bad area for drainage. So kind of coupled with all these different things, and then the railroad ending, the Sawyer River Railroad ceased to operate in 1928 after the washouts in the area. Livermore kind of just basically fell into nothingness, and it was officially disincorporated in 1951. So again, not really that long ago. Just post World War II, people were still actually living in Livermore, and kind of a cool little historical thing to see as you're going out or coming back from doing Carrigan. Kind of highly recommend checking that one out. And this was kind of a new one on me that I shared with. I don't know if this was in one of the books I saw initially, but it was kind of fascinating with the fact that there was actually a town of Carrigan, kind of around where Carrigan Notch exists today. And this wasn't even, it was quite a large town. It's estimated that 200 to 300 people actually lived here back then, even though we can't know exactly because records weren't being kept. But one of the things that's most interesting to me about this is that it was a really large town, and it only existed less than a decade, really. So you're talking a full bustling logging town, and it pretty much just ceased to exist after less than 10 years. So kind of crazy how these things sprung up and they got developed, and then once the timber was harvested or they suffered some sort of catastrophe like a fire or whatever, they disappeared. And a lot of these, one bright side to a lot of these fires and people devastating the forest, it kind of gave a lot of fuel for the Weeks Act to kind of come into place and kind of create the national forest that we know today.
Yeah, and Rebecca, maybe you know this, or Andy, you might know this, but when they would set up an operation like this, set up a rail line. And I know in Maine, like there's these you can actually go see these old abandoned like engines, and I think that they designed like the whole idea was like, oh, well, we can leave all this stuff behind, and you know, it was by design. But did they do that with these rail lines, or did they have a system where they actually said like, all right, we got to pull the engines out of here and we're going to move them to the next rail line? And did they purposely like pull the metal tracks out, or did they just leave them until later on when metal became more valuable?
For the most part, in our Whites logging operations, the engines, when possible, were pulled out so they could be repurposed, because that was the most expensive aspect of the operation with the locomotives. A lot of the tracks were left, or at least the ties were left. The rails were often extracted because they had use value in the scrap or in repurposing rails. They can be reused, but ties, bridges would remain, and any remnants from these towns that weren't valuable enough to haul out of these remote locations. But it's hard to find remnants of locomotives unless they were wrecked in the Whites. But that notable case in the North Woods of Maine, those two logging engines in the forest that are kind of half reclaimed, is a great kind of like time capsule to look back at that operation. But we don't have anything quite like that, at least that's been noted or discovered here.
Oh my God, imagine Rebecca finding like an old abandoned engine out in the middle of nowhere and not and no one's discovered it. That'd be crazy.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
I'd be scared. I have a very overreactive imagination.
It'd be a very, very Scooby-Doo move.
I'd be like, oh God, monsters.
What did
ghosts.
I find? What did I find? So.
All the scary things.
Awesome. Well, yeah. I mean, so it's cool history. There's a lot out there. And then I guess basically my recommendation would be to buy these books and start doing your research. I know my friend James, matter of fact, I got to connect with James. He had given me like a small Bill Cove map of the Pemi region. So inside the Pemi, when you get out to like Franconia Brook, Lincoln Brook out by Owl's Head, that area has a ton of old logging camps that are tied to the rail lines. So this is good. So we got the big ones here, and then Andy, we're up on time a little bit. But what other branches or rail lines are there out there quickly?
Sure, I'll just cover the last couple here. Little River Railroad is one that was also in the Zealand area and over by the Twins. And the first couple miles of that, the North Twin Trail, actually follows the old grade. And if you're out there, you can still see little bits of rail and timbers from the ties along the way. Not as obvious as in Lincoln Woods, but that's another one. And then one of the ones that is interest to me, it's sort of near where I'm at, over on the east side. I live in Jackson, and on isolation, there was the Rocky Branch logging line, and that was basically right along the Rocky Branch Trail, and that's using significant portions of the grade. And when you're on the lower sections of that trail, you may have noticed that there's that telltale steady grade and kind of straight line feel that used to be that rail bed. That's undergone some significant washouts. So as we talk about washouts, storms like Hurricane Irene, remnants really washed out and kind of rerouted parts of the trail. But a significant portion of the lower part of the Rocky Branch was on that Rocky Branch line.
Yeah, that's a good point, is that you do get that you climb from the Rocky Branch trailhead and then you get up to that level, and it is a straight shot out, but it just seems to me like that would be like a tough I don't know where the train went down. I guess it went down off the other side, right down.
Yeah, that one really is one of the reasons why I'm particularly interested in that one. Is that some of the more rugged, in my opinion, terrain that a non-mountain climbing train was ever shoved through over there. Almost hard to imagine a railroad in that terrain over there.
Yeah, well, this is great stuff, and I appreciate you guys. You definitely both, all three of you, have more knowledge of this than I do. I got to buy my books and do some reading here. But this is good stuff, and we'll link all this in the show notes.
It's time for Slasher's Guest of the Week. Very cool, very cool.
I did want to get to Rebecca here, so we want to do a little bit of a catch-up because you're like one of the more prolific redlining trace hikers out there, so we wanted to pick your brain a little bit about the project. First of all, what are we calling this? Are we calling it redlining? Are we calling it trace? What is the latest?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I just call it the White Mountain Guide.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
just like stay away from everything.
Safe. That's safe.
It's too much
safe stance
going on out there sometimes.
Yep, too much trauma.
I know that the website or the Facebook group is back to being redlining, and the website calls it the Trails Objective, which doesn't really flow off the tongue very well.
Yeah.
So I just call it Hiking the White Mountain Guide. It's just easier.
Yeah, okay. That's safe. That's safe. So
I know some people call it tracing.
Yeah, there's redlining tracing. So what we're talking about for listeners that aren't familiar is there's like 32, 31 editions of the White Mountain Guide, and essentially this is a pursuit just like the 4,000 footer list or 52 with a view, where hikers will pursue hiking every trail that's listed in the White Mountain Guide, and you can do it like whatever version guide you want to pursue, you can do it, and the trails change a little bit over time, but essentially you've got to cover every single trail, and Rebecca has done this, I think. So you're on your second full trace, but you've started and stopped this, I feel like, more than twice. Like you pursued it, and then you said like, all right, I didn't finish that, so I'm going to start all over again. And then you completed it, and now you're starting over again.
So I officially started working on it in 2019. I was at about 23% because usually everyone thinks, oh, I'm so far along. And then they plug it into the spreadsheet and you get a real slap in the face that you're not that far along. Yeah. So I was at 23-ish%. And then in 2020, I was going to do a year. I wanted to do it in a year. So I started in January 1st and I got about 7.5% because I like zeroed out the spreadsheet. And then COVID happened. So then I had to stop. And then I started at 0% again in June of 2020. And then I got 18% more done. And then I got my cancer diagnosis and then had to stop again because I was trying to get it done in a year because I wanted it to be like a timed attempt.
Right. Yeah. So you did is unusual because most people will just like, all right, I did 20% and they do it over like 10, 15 years.
Yeah. So I was like, no, I'm going to do it in a year. I want to be like, I want to finish this in a year. I want to just have like a beginning and end. It's like more of a compulsive behavioral pattern I have where I need to have beginnings and ends of things more than anything else. So then I got my diagnosis. And by then, of course, I keep restarting it. I keep racking up percentages. And then I started for the third time doing a timed attempt in 2022, and I finished 97.6% in 16 and a half months. And by then I had already done 56% for round 2 because I kept restarting. So I am now at 75% for round 2. And there's only 4 people who've done it twice, and they're all guys. So I'm hoping to become the first known woman to do it all twice.
Awesome.
And you have
crushing it.
And I guess for the
my timeline is to finish by the end of August of next year.
And then like for the listeners that aren't familiar, you have like, what is there, like 16 different like tabs, or maybe there's 8 tabs?
Well, now there's 13. There were 12. One for each section of the guidebook. They broke up the North Country into 2 tabs. There's 657 named trails and over 1,400 miles of trails, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're doing the same trail 4 times just to get to the other trails, it ends up adding up. So the first time when I calculated out all the data back in 2023, it was over 2,000 miles worth of hiking. And I want to say it was like over 650,000 feet of climbing. Yeah. Like over 500,000 feet of elevation.
Jeez.
Yeah. So my knees hate me. I have chronically injured them both legitimately. I partially tore my quad. I sprained both my ankles. I have lots of injuries, but, yeah, I'm hoping to finish next August because I just really want to be done with round 2. And I just need to have a deadline because if I don't, I won't keep doing it. I'll like put them off. Because obviously when you have this much done, you get to this point where you're like, I don't really want to do that hike, but I know I need to do it. So it's kind of like a motivator to get me to finish.
And then how much progress will you make do you slow down over the winter or?
So I have one more hike tomorrow that I can do. Everything that I have left, I'll have 50 hikes left after tomorrow. Yeah. And everything else I cannot do in the winter because it's just you can't do it.
Like you can North Country and other.
Like I'm not going to go do Huntington Ravine in the winter. Right. Yeah. I'm not going to, just not a thing that happens. I'm not going to go into the Great Gulf Wilderness and do Great Gulf Trail in the winter. It's not going to be a thing I do. So what I have left is all things that realistically speaking, I cannot do in the winter. So because of that, I have like a ton of hikes next summer. I have 4 days a week of hiking all next summer. And this whole fall, I've been hiking every single weekend and any day off I have from work because I have like only so much time.
Right. I'm assuming like you've been doing this a long time now and getting out, and you've pursued like these time-based things, and in some respects you've been successful. Sometimes you've been like, I got to start over again. Have you come through sort of the other side feeling like, I'm really enjoying this and having fun now? Or where are you at with it?
I've surprisingly been good about getting up, because usually my biggest issue is getting out the door, because I'm a really heavy sleeper. So like the last thing I want to do is get up and drive north on my one day off of the week. Mm-hmm. But I've been wicked good about doing that. And next summer will be a whole nother story, because when you're doing as much as I will be doing, and it's like not just all the hiking, but all the driving, it's like exhausting. And it really does wear on you. And, but at the same time, it's like this weird thing. If you're into endurance sports, it's almost like you want it to be hard and you like to see how far you can push it. So that kind of drives you too. It's like, I don't know. I know it's almost like an addiction. I feel like. You can't not be a planner
by doing this, but do you have everything locked in for these 50 hikes? You've got you know where you need to go, and it's going to, you did.
Yeah. I planned out all the routes. I actually can do it by heart now. I know all the routes in the Whites. Like I literally just for one day I was bored at work and I sat down with Gaia and I routed out every single trail in the Whites.
Every single
one. I created a day hike for every single route. It's very pretty. It's very colorful.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tickles my obsessive tendency. I love that. That's
it
awesome.
Almost makes me feel like it's my way of organizing my life when I'm feeling disorganized. And it just feels so like soothing. I don't know.
I feel like it's
like an obsessive compulsive
at
thing,
some point, like you're going to be able to use AI.
I feel there's going to
be, we'll reach a point where you can basically say to AI, like, hey, here's the White Mountain guide, and can you optimize? I want to do this, basically hike every trail in the White Mountains. Can you optimize it so that it's the least distance? You put your parameters in. It's going to happen someday, but you already did it. So you probably just need to feed the AI, Rebecca, and it'll steal your info. Okay.
Oh God, I am not an AI person. I actually, the other day at work, someone used AI to write something, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so weird and it's so good. I don't love this. It was like an email or something, and it's like it's crazy good.
Yeah, I know. Well, Nick was going to do a
As a
segment
writer,
on
I'm not
AI
loving
music
it though,
because he's a musician. So it's coming for you, creatives. So get ready. Yeah, you don't want it. So, what is your? So you talked about the Wild River earlier, but what is your nemesis when it comes to the White Mountains, and then what is your favorite hikes or favorite areas?
Let's see. Nemesis. Oh gosh. Okay. I mean, no, I've done that one twice. I don't mind that kind of trail. I would say anything that's above tree line. I have a fear of heights, and it really does mess with you, and you have I have to acclimate to it. So the Northern Prezzies, really, they were rough for me. I have almost all of it done. So now I'm feeling better about it. But like, I genuinely can't look behind me a lot of the time. People are like, look at these amazing views. And I'm like, how about no? Because I will freak out. I don't want to turn around and look. I'll look through my phone because it makes me feel safer. Because it's not me looking, it's like through my phone. It makes me have that like boundary so I don't feel as scared. But I don't like being above tree line. It really is hard. And
you picked a weird hobby for being afraid of heights.
Well, I like, to be honest, so many of the trails are in the trees. It doesn't bother me usually because most of these trails, you're not above tree line. I would say my biggest enemy, definitely the Mahoosic Range. I am not looking forward to doing that whole thing again. It is not easy. And it's kind of like, you don't even realize how much it's going to suck until you're in it. And you're just like climbing over boulders, and it's exhausting. And it's really, I found there to be a lot of blowdowns the year I did that section. Not just like Mahoosic Notch. I mean like the rest of it. And it starts off so unassuming when you begin in Gorham. And then the next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This is so hard. It was a tough section for me the first time I did it. But one thing I've noticed is doing them at all again is it's like easier the second time.
Yeah, you know what to expect.
And in my head,
you're right, like the like Mahoosic Notch isn't as bad, I don't think. But like for me, like going up Mahoosic Arm and then that whole section before Old Spice, it was just it was tough.
Yeah, it's just relentless. And I hated the Kinsman Ridge Trail, and I still am not a fan. I just did a whole section of it again a couple weeks ago. Not a fan. Could do without it. I swear there's some kind of weird thing going on with like your cell phone service in there where it's like something happens that my phone was glitching out so bad. I was like, and because I hike solo, it's like I have to mentally be like keeping myself in check sort of, and I'm like sort of having a mini meltdown because something's going off my phone. And I was going into like this dark spiral of, oh my gosh, what if we like got some kind of terrorist attack that made cell phone service go away? I went on a whole spiral.
You're really in your head there.
I had a really bad time. It was a bad day. But I still have a section of that to do.
Awesome.
Again.
And then you, at one point, you were high profile on social media, but I think like you've definitely like stepped back there. Are you happier now? Like, what's your perspective on social media?
I don't really try to be anything at this point. I just am what I am.
You am where
I went through a phase where I was like, I can't. After getting my diagnosis and going through treatment publicly, it's really a mind F to have so many people be in your corner chasing after you and cheering you on. For that to completely disappear, like a few months in when it gets boring and the next cool thing is somebody else is sick or somebody else is hurt or whatever, like it's a really hard thing to navigate. I don't think people realize, and I never realized it myself till I was on the end of it, being the receiving end. And like, so then finishing treatment, I was like, I just need to step away from people for a while and like disengage because it's just too hard to imagine how my life that I experienced, like me personally having to go through it, was like somebody's entertainment and that they can just dip out when they're bored. So that was really, really hard. And then having to like just be okay with that. It's now I've gotten much better where I just don't like allow that. I don't let people, I guess, affect me that way. I know that can be what people are doing, and I just know it going into it, like the grief tourists and then whatever, like I just know that's what they're doing. Before I had no clue. I was so innocent and like naive to it.
Well, I think we've all kind of grown, like social media is developed right around that time. Although I mean, it's been around for a while now, but like really, I feel like from 2016 to maybe 2022 is where it just evolved to something that, now there's a lot more. I've had my own evolution with it, but I'm not really that. I'm happy to be less involved.
Yeah, I would say that. Also, just knowing that, like, honestly, you don't make that much money, and it's not that easy to be a quote unquote influencer. Not that I ever really tried to be one, but it's a lot of pressure, and it's like the random people who think they don't think and they'll just say whatever they want to say. Or like this woman called me an influencer one day and like tagged me in her Instagram story because I was walking on an old, like a snowmobile trail in Goffstown. And I was like, I'm off trail. And she was so upset that I was affecting the landscape by doing that, and I was encouraging it as an influencer. And I'm like, I have like 4,000 followers. I don't think I'm an influencer.
Nice. Leave me alone. I'm wearing my snowshoes. Yeah,
people get really kind of a little off the top, over the top, whatever. But yeah, I just feel like it's just whatever. It's not how I make money,
right?
So.
Well, you are into writing and history and stuff. Do you ever have any ideas about writing a book?
I did.
You did? Oh, I know you did write one, but another one.
Yes and no. Like I have a memoir written. It's a draft, and I have thought about whether I want to publish it or not. The other thing that's shifted to is now I work as I'm in a public school, and so I have to walk a very careful line because you can get fired. Like it's not the same as any other jobs. Like you have to be very careful what you put out there as an educator. And I had a parent actually say they must have Googled me and they found out who I was, and it's like, I don't want people to know who I am in my job, genuinely. Right. And like, it's a really, really going back into teaching. I was like, oh God, because I left education partially because of the fact that is a thing. And I didn't want people Googling me. And now there's all this stuff out there that has been created over the last 5 years or so. And now I'm like, parents are Googling me. And it's just such a weird thing. But I think that I would probably be open to writing. Like I have books I want to write, but I just need to take the time to do it. And I work a lot now. It's hard.
Well, that plus if you're going to be doing the hiking through the summer, then it's not going to happen this year.
Well, I have delusions of grandeur and massive, ridiculous, unrealistic goal lists. Like my big goal for this coming year is I want to read 100 books. And usually I read about 50 a year. So I'm like, that's impressive. Yeah.
Still really good.
And I have a whole list and I have a bunch that I've purchased and like, I'm really excited. That's like my big thing right now. But yeah, I have a couple of books in my head and I've written a draft and I really want to do a history book for the Whites, but like that is such a huge project. That's going to take years.
Well, keep us up to date. And then if you ever want to come back and do more history segments, like all three of us will be happy to do that again for sure.
Oh,
absolutely.
Thank you.
100%.
I have to say I'm disappointed that your cat hasn't made an appearance.
I am too. I think she's locked out.
Is she locked out?
Did I hear
I can go get her.
The cat
You
earlier?
might have. I can go get her if you want.
I'm a cat.
I know
person,
you
so
love
yes.
cats. I think so. I'm pretty sure Mike hates cats.
No, I don't have I don't have a deep opinion. I'm more of a dog person, I will admit. I do appreciate a cat that likes to come say hello, but because I feel like it's like anybody can pet a dog and win a dog over, but like to win a cat over is a significant accomplishment, I feel like.
See, either of mine, I've got two, but they would try to probably get pet and then I'd ignore them and then they'd start chewing on the audio cables that are in here.
Yeah.
That's usually the next course of action.
I'm pretty sure I can hear my cat like attacking the door. That's why I keep looking over. She's totally ruined the carpet outside her bedroom.
There's not a velociraptor trying to get you right now.
Nope.
It's going to come through the glass.
She's a really bad cat. She's very destructive. The carpet's ruined. We're not getting our security deposit back. It's just it's not even a thought in my mind.
Well, if anybody's listening and they are into laying carpet, like hit Rebecca up.
Oh God.
She'll guide you. She'll give you some advice on trails to hike in the Whites in exchange for the carpet.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
So to put you on the spot, Rebecca, what if you had to pick? I know it's hard to do this. Pick one favorite trail in the Whites. What's your favorite?
I'm gonna always, I think, go back to Shoal Pond because I just really liked that trail. I also think it depends on your mood. Like if you go on a trail and you're having like a good experience with it, it's like it's just even if it's not necessarily the best trail. So I say Shoal Pond is probably gonna always be my favorite because I just love that trail. It's just a beautiful area. It's really overgrown, which I also love. Landing Camp Trail is a nice trail. I know you have that on here. Well, it's a terrible trail.
Peter
okay,
and Jake.
It's a really bad.
I was gonna say,
It's complete. It's like hands down the most. I would say, it's the most overgrown trail. It's not even a trail. It genuinely is just like walking through the woods, especially at the after the very first section. It gets really bad. But it's kind of cool. I don't know. I've always really liked the idea of, I like a challenge and I want to be challenged in my head. So like if it's a hard to navigate trail, for me, that is more exciting than doing some kind of like sketchy rock scramble. Like I want to be wondering where I'm going and if it's the right direction. Like that to me is much more up my alley. So, and Shoal Pond is a little bit rough for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
I
I've
will
done
say,
it 5
Rebecca,
times. I don't know.
I think you've been on a bunch, but I think you were the first guest that we had that we really did a deeper dive on trail maintenance. And Nick's been a trail adopter, and I finally got around to doing trail adoption. So
Nice.
I always had it on my list of to-dos, and you had sort of given us an insight into it. And now that I've finally got around to it, I think that, you know, it's awesome that you've been doing that for so long. And how is it with your trail adoption? I know with mine, like I'm thinking in terms of like I need probably 2-3 more trips up there next year to really
What's
get it
your
under
trail?
control. Baldface Circle.
Oh, nice.
To south to Eagle Pass.
Okay.
So, but how is your trail? Have you been keeping it up? And it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Widened out and everything.
Yeah, I have Cedar Brook Trail, which is 5 miles of trail. It takes it's like 2 miles to get to it one way, which is always a long day. And I have brushed that thing so much. It is like the one thing that I like about it is that it's mostly just tons of brushing. I don't love water bars. And brushing can be very soothing kind of too, because you see it's just like you can become like in this flow state of just trimming, and I have to be aware.
Just snipping.
Yeah. Like I try not to overdo it also because it is it's a wilderness area. So like you want it to be a wilderness area. But it's just a really nice area and I like it a lot. Some of it, it's like this, there's no fixing this. It's just beyond, there's no trimming that could make this be better because of what it is. But yeah, I love it. It's a good trail.
I love taking a before picture and then doing it and then doing the after, and you're like, oh, what a difference.
I know.
So,
it's nice to see the difference. It's like you feel like you actually did something. And also it makes you slow down and like genuinely appreciate where you are versus just like racing through the trees and racing through the woods. Like to actually just exist in that area and be in it. It's nice.
It's a different kind of day when you go out and do the trail maintenance, which is, I was foolish too. I should have called you to get advice, but I also did a trail that I have to hike like 2.5 miles just to get to. So
it's never fun.
No.
And then I also end up somewhat trimming out that, like I'll do Hancock Notch Trail and be like, okay, maybe I'll just do a quick little sweep through this since I'm already walking the thing.
Right.
When you have your loppers on, it's like you can't go past any trail that touches. Like if a branch touches you, you're like, oh, I have to fix that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Rebecca, it's great having you here, and Andy, thanks for joining us and
thank you.
Spreading the knowledge and the history here. You guys are awesome, and I think that's it. We're way over time, Nick.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how long you guys go.
Yeah, we usually go.
I feel like these history delves, they get pretty deep.
They go long.
So, happens.
But this is great. And then I think we got one more episode before we break for Christmas. So we will see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at SLASRPodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are?
Here's Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared. And I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.